Welcome to kind of an unexpected Crimeycade podcast. I'm the Mega Server Crime Fighter, Stephen Lucas, uh, with episode 76.5. So, what? So, last night I did a podcast, and I did a podcast last night because I screwed up. Uh, because last night, I put out a graphic on Monday because I guess I timed out on trying to get a guest. So I called it the Error 408 re-guest timeout. The problem was I didn't double check my date and which day of the week it was. I was intending to have it on Thursday, but turns out the 19th is on Wednesday. So I needed to do a podcast last night since I advertised I was going to do it on the 19th. And I did a podcast last night. Let's chat. And what did I talk about? I talked about the trouble I was having finding guests. I was having talking about the trouble chasing scores. I also covered the mess with Black Ops 7 and AI slop. And then a little bit of talk about the challenge cards and a new 8-bit console. I also covered a couple of figures in the gaming scene that had passed away recently. So that was what I did last night. I did it for an hour and a half, and I was a little bit inebriated because I had drank a few glasses of wine before the podcast, and then it started to affect me during the pod. Well, it actually affected me throughout the pod, but I got through the whole thing. I covered all the topics I wanted to talk about and did it coherently, although I was kind of tired. So, yeah, mistakes happen, but I needed to do the pod since I said I was going to do a pod. Just I did it on the wrong day of the week by mistake. The real last episode of the Crimeycade podcast was Jay Peakman coming in, as I mentioned, last Friday night. I had to do it on a Friday night to accommodate his streaming schedule. He is a Call of Duty player, and I've asked him to I will be asking him for his assessment of Black Ops 7, which seems to be embroiled in controversy, especially over the use of AI assets. So I said I was going to have a surprise guest tonight, but here's the thing. The Crimeycade podcast is on Facebook and Twitch. If you're watching me on Twitch, follow me on my Facebook page. If you're watching me on my Facebook page, follow me on Twitch. That would be a great help because I can't use the Twitch emotes on Facebook. Certainly, Facebook doesn't have a lot of emotes that I can use on this on Twitch, and I have fancy little emotes. There's my Nintendo Campus Challenge logo as an emote. Of course, you have to be a subscriber to use it because I made that for my use. So you gotta subscribe. Anyway. And I've been talking about this. Gamers are wanted for my podcast for potential guests in the near future, and I'm going to be writing up a list of names to contact, and going to be sending out emails. I'm going to have to send out emails to a larger number of people that I have been at a time just so I can get a few guests together. So, is anybody in the chat watching right now? And there's a few in the chat, not very many, but because I didn't expect there to be a whole lot of viewers coming in right away, because I did not advertise this until like 1, 2 in the afternoon, and there's a reason for that. I wasn't expecting to do a podcast, but uh, something happened. A message I received kind of changed things around a little bit. And I felt the need that I need to do a podcast, and I need to do a podcast tonight with this guest, because I don't think I'm going to get another shot at it anytime soon if I don't take the opportunity to bring him in tonight. So this is a spur of the moment podcast, and advertise this a surprise. So my guest tonight, and I'm going to play the trailer, and let's see, I better switch to another view here. Here we go. And coming in, and my guest for tonight, the man who organized all this chaos and controls the chaos every year, Dan Lewson.
Howdy. I don't know that I control the chaos, but I try. Thanks for doing this last minute. I swear I thought that I had emailed you back on Monday and said, like, yeah, I can actually do Thursday. This is finally the week. And then I apparently did not email you back, and I was looking because I was like, oh, funny, I didn't get a message back. And then I looked, and yeah, my life is kind of absurd, and there's lots of stuff going on. We can get into some of that. Some of that will be boring because it has nothing to do with the show, and some of that actually does have to do with the show. And so we can talk through some of that kind of different stuff, and I'm glad to be on. We've been talking about this for like, 3 months, and I finally have found some time.
Yeah, it's been a 3 month. It's a weekly struggle for me. I'm always trying to find a guest, and I like to get them on. I like to announce the guests on the podcast I'm doing, so people have a reason to tune in next week.
Yeah.
But lately, I've emailed people, and then they say they either don't answer or they are interested but won't commit to a date.
Yeah, and I apologize. So here's kind of the nutshell of what's going on in my life. I am sitting in the basement of my house, and my house has been under unplanned renovation for over a year now, and we are getting near the end. And I keep having things pop up with it that are like, oh, guess what? Today you get to do electrical for the whole day. And because it was unplanned, we don't have the money to like just throw at it to get other people to do it. So a lot of the times when it's like, my father-in-law is an electrician, and so when he needs to do electric work, I get to be his assistant all day and stuff like that. And then at the same time, we have so many different behind the scenes things going on with the Midwest Gaming Classic and Goat Store and JJ Games and all these other things that we do. And they're also great, but like it is a constant struggle to feel like I'm on top of anything right now. And so we're getting there little by little. And so I tell you what, I will commit right now that in a couple months, we'll do this again. And instead of sitting in my basement, I will be we're actually going to get an office in town. It's not going to be a like regularly publicly available office, but it's really important because right now we have, I think it's 9 different storage places across town that we have things in. Yes, that's the correct answer.
Wow.
Because, and to be clear, that's not like
Like Duck Mac.
right,
And
it's
it's
not,
arcade
it's
vault.
not like many of them. It's not like we don't have much at any of those locations. For instance, we have a location that's pretty close to the Wisconsin Center that we keep a lot of our stuff at. We have it's a like one of those storage units where you pay for the different storage units. We have 11 units there, but we have 8 different places throughout town. There's a place that's a little bit north of where I am right now. Wherever I am, my garage is full. Don't come look in my garage right now, I guess. There's
You're doing
there's all these different
renovations, so
places.
you got to put all the furniture somewhere.
Yeah, well, and it's been just nuts. And so my basement, as you can see behind me, is at least partially full with our games. And it's been great because we're gearing up to announce that we're doing a pop-up arcade. This is breaking news here. We're doing a pop-up arcade this Christmas in the Milwaukee area. And I think that I'm going to get to announce who I'm doing it with tomorrow, but it's going to be something where if you pay a certain amount of money to go in, we're going to co-promote this with a location, and we're going to have about 80 games there, a little bit more than that. A lot of pinball, some Japanese rhythm games, a lot of old school games. And so you'll be able to come and do like the pay one price, like a Galloping Ghost, like a Garcade up here in Milwaukee type thing. But just with some games in a completely different setting than what you normally would. And that's only going to exist for about a week. So we just put that together. Like I said, we're about to move. We've been renting games out to different corporate events. I've been rebuilding my house. We have tons of behind the scenes stuff going on with the show itself. And yeah, it's been like, on one hand, it's great to be this busy. I always half jokingly say to people, I would rather be busy than the alternative, because I was during like the post-COVID days, there was a lot more trying to figure out what I can do to make $1. Whereas now, like, everybody is like, hey, let's do something. Let's talk with the Midwest Gaming Classic guys. Let's do this. Let's do that. But it's also like, trying to figure out how to prioritize and stuff like that, while also still being a dad and doing all the things that entails, and being a husband and all the things that entails is, it's an interesting challenge.
And you've been doing it for... So we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of the Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yep.
I have been to... Jeez. So I was trying to figure out what my streak actually was.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was at 22, but apparently it's a little bit less than that.
Yeah.
I started 2004.
Yeah, so we're weird because there was 2 years that we didn't have a show.
Right.
And so 1 year that we didn't have a show was perhaps obviously COVID. 1 year that we didn't have a show was actually 2005. So after that first show, we had this weird thing happen that first show that kind of defined a lot of things. Well, it wasn't our first show. That was our third show. But we got the location that we worked with was not positive to work with. They basically hit a bunch of fees on us. And so we were surprised after actually it was during the show. I guess I'll tell the whole story real brief. It's not that long of a story.
Brookfield Sheridan, right?
This was at the Sheraton the first time that we did it there. Yeah. At the time, the Sheraton felt like they were going to have, they were booming. They thought they were going to have business forever. And so when we came in, they made promises to us. Oh yeah, you can do this, you can do that. And we had the space. If you remember, we only had the space in the back of the hotel that was like the smaller meeting rooms. We had arcade stuff set up there. We had space in the basement. And the stuff that was in the basement was where we had the consoles. Number one, they didn't allow us to make any sort of signage. They said to me, oh, well, we're going to have wedding groups here, and they're not going to want your signage up around their weddings. And so like we could not link them. And there was the other bigger problem perhaps for us was that we were expecting that we were going to save a lot on costs by being very flexible with tables. And so our goal was we had rented something like 15 tables in our contract with them. And then every table beyond that was like $40 to rent. And if we would use whatever tables they had left. And so like 2 weeks before the show, I was like, all right, we're close. What are the tables that you've got? Whatever you've got will make work. I don't care if they're round. I don't care if they're half moon. I don't care what they are. Let's go. And they were like, oh, bad news. Every table we have is rented out other than the ones in your contract. We don't have any tables. And so we were like, oh my God. And so one of the things that's just true about our show is that we've always been very driven by people coming and bringing like unique things and then being flexible with how we place things. Completely different than how a lot of bigger shows are done, because we are constantly just like, hey, can we be flexible? And we really love it when people can be. And you see that when you walk into different areas, you can tell that there's both like a more, amateur is not the right word, but a more like underground and gritty like feel to certain aspects of it. But you also get like to the real business of it, the real like passion of it very quickly, which I feel like oftentimes the corporate sheen of and I'm not trying to talk down any shows in particular, but like more of a like a corporate show.
Okay.
You don't get that same feeling with them. And there's some great stuff about that. There's people that love that type of show, and I totally get that. But with us, we're always being flexible. Anyway, back to the 2004 thing. So I'm like, yeah, what tables can we get? And they're like, we're totally sold out. So we're like, all right, whatever. We'll use the rectangular tables. Then that's kind of the best for us. And so we filled those in. We ended up using about 100 additional tables. So this was a $4,000 or so additional cost. And yeah, weren't expecting it. Because of that additional cost, we did not make money that year. And on Saturday, and by the way, it was basically every year up until that point, we did not make money. But we were like, oh, we're growing something. This was the year that we were finally like, we're going to do better. And I walk into the back, and there are stacks of tables. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why are did you rent them? Why are these here? And I remember that my salesperson said to me, you didn't put that into the contract. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we're really going to do this? You didn't put this into the contract thing. And because of that, we lost money. And then
wait a minute.
Yep.
They rented all the tables out, and yet they had some giant.
No, they didn't rent out all the tables. They just told me that they did so that we would have to pay. And then they said, it wasn't in your contract. You should have wrote it in if you wanted that.
Okay, so they're being deceptive.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. And so after that show was over, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go home. And you know what? We lost money. And I don't remember exactly what it was. It was the majority of that $4,000. We weren't like, I contrary to popular belief, I'm not swimming in Scrooge McDuck's money bin. The show, while it
not.
is, I wish, but while the show just isn't that type of thing because of how it's run. Like, we don't have those giant sponsors that come in and like rain money down on us the same way that bigger shows do. And that's fine. That's who we are. Anyway, though, I got home and I was like, at least I'm going to log on to all these message boards and people are going to be like, oh, I had such a good time. It was a great show. And I logged on to these message boards and everybody was like, well, I collect Nintendo games and, the 2 games that I'm missing weren't there. So the show was a disaster and I would never go back. And yep. And we were just like, all right, that's it. And we threw up our hands and we said, we're done with this nonsense. And so the reason the 2005 didn't exist was we had lost money in 2004, 2003, 2002. We had been running an online video game store, Goat Store, which we still run, although now it is run under the name JJ Games. And Goat Store, essentially, we would work the whole year and sell games the whole year so we could lose all of the money on Midwest Gaming Classic, so we could work all year to raise money so that we could lose it again on the show. It was not smart.
Why does this look familiar?
So
hold on once.
JJ Games has been around for a really long time. We bought them out a couple of years ago, and we operate under that name now. Goat Store will eventually, hopefully, return. Yep. And so, like, if you want MGC exclusive games and stuff like that, you can go there. Anyway, to finish this longer than I intended the story, we get back and we canceled the 2005 show because it was like, all right, we're not going to lose a ton of money and have people tell everybody that the show sucks. Like, that's just not what we're here for. Mm-hmm. And so we canceled the show. And then this really interesting thing happened. About 9 months after we canceled the show, I started getting emails from people that were like, hey, what happened to the show? I loved this show. What's going on? And it was like, we looked at the people that were writing in, and it was like, oh crap, this person buys a lot of games from us. This person also buys a lot of games from us. This person also buys a lot of games from us. And we were like, we don't want to just tell them, because honestly, we now have so much debt that we really need them to buy more games so that we can not just like continue to lose money on this. And so we were like, well, we don't want to tell them that the show sucks and that we're really bad at running it. Although that was how we felt. And so instead, we thought that we were being crafty. We were like, all right, let's come up with an impossible list of things that we're going to ask them to do. And then we'll send it out and we'll act like we're being reasonable. And then when they can't do it, they won't be mad at us that the show's canceled, but we don't have to run this thing anymore. And so we sat down and we, like I said, we thought that we were real smart. We were like, all right, let's see here. Let's run let's say that we need a place that's twice as big, but for half the cost. And wow, this is impressive. This must be one of the early ones. This must have been from 2004.
After I got home.
Pause.
I guess Moby Games put this one together, but
wow, yes, this is 2004. Holy crap. I didn't know
this is on YouTube still.
This is on YouTube still?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Here we go. Yep.
Oh my God. You need to send this to me. I did not know that this existed. I'm honestly dumbfounded. I didn't know that
right now, if I can.
I did not know that any footage of the 2004 show existed. Anyway, to finish the story and not to completely distract myself. Oh my God, that's right. Balls sponsored us that year. I totally forgot about that. But so I'm fascinated right now. I have to be careful or I'm just going to at this.
I gotta make sure this is playing at normal speed. Yeah. Low resolution though.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I'll see myself in this thing in a minute.
Yeah, this is fascinating. But so anyway, we sent them a thing that said, Marty Goldberg. We sent a thing that said, hey, we need something that's twice this size for half the cost, knowing that I had toured every place in Milwaukee and that place didn't exist. We said, hey, you know what will people not ever want to do? We're going to tell them, hey, we want someone to be at tickets the entire time. No one's going to do that. They want to be in the show, not sitting at tickets. We had a huge issue getting our flyer into game stores. So we were like, hey, we need to get our flyer guaranteed to go into 20 different game stores and at least 30 locations. And we need someone to make the flyers. And we did like 4 or 5 more of these. This is fascinating to see this. Heck yeah, Goat Store. And so those are, oh my God, we still use those bins to this day. That's my bins. That is Goat Store, 100%.
Humble beginnings.
Yeah. Yeah. That is not Goat Store. We never did empty boxes. But so we sent this out and we CC'd everybody on the email. And good thing that we did, because one of the people after we sent that deleted our names from the email. And then they said, all right, who's taking on which aspect of this? And people started to like take tasks. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I get a email back that says, hey, Dan, we wanted to give you an update. Here's a location that we should use. It's the, what's it called in Economowoc? Oh, heck yeah, Inhabitants. That's the game that we made. It's the Olympia in Economowoc. It's 4 times as big for half the cost. And it was like, oh. And then
I missed that place, by the way.
What?
Because, I enjoyed going down to Economowoc, and that downtown was beautiful.
Yeah. Economowoc was a neat place, and I liked that place very much. And yeah, I'm getting distracted by this because this is fascinating. I did not know that this
almost over. Nope, it's only halfway over. It's only 5 minutes and 45.
Yeah, it's like those games. This is Atari Age. Atari Age was at that show. They did a whole room.
Yeah.
They had tons of stuff. We had unveiled for the first time those games. I will finish my story in a minute, but we had unveiled these games here. I'm going to sneak to the side of the camera for just a second because if I'm not mistaken, where do I have them?
And FYI, Atari Age did return. Atari Age did return to the Midwest Gaming Classic this year after over a decade.
With Atari officially, which is a neat callback from how we started. Oh, the Lynx collections. This was probably Tom Laguerre's Lynx collection. Yes, this was. Tom is an awesome guy who started by bringing his Lynx collection for people to play, and then made a room for a number of years that he called the family game room. That was literally his family setting up the games that they would play together each week. And that was really cool. Heck yeah, an Atari portfolio.
Yeah. Time warp.
I'm like the last existing person who unironically used an Atari portfolio to take notes in college on. So
I don't know if anybody had one, but yeah, I know what it is.
I legitimately did. It was 2000. I found one really cheap online. I found out that I could transfer using a card in my computer files from it on .txt files to it. And like I had $100, which is I think what it costs to get it. And so I legitimately would take it with me to UW Waukesha, and I would you would thumb type with it because the keyboard wasn't big enough to actually like type on it, but it wasn't small enough. And so yeah, I would thumb type with it, and I would then transfer the text files into other stuff. And it was like I said, I was the last one to use it. I wish I knew where that sign was. Oh my god, tickets $5. Also part of the big reason that we didn't make any money when they say, hey, here's $4,000. We had 1,600 people come to that show. So you can figure out from that we did not make $1 million. Anywho, to finish the story before I got distracted by that. Oh, look at that. One of the unique things that we had with so we had everybody come back and they were like, yeah, we're gonna help you make this show. And they found the location, and they found we had one guy who, hey, here's 4 flyer designs, here's the 15 game stores that have already committed to having this, here's 15 additional stores, we also have these 10 game stores that we're meeting with, all of them have tentatively said yes, they just want to see the flyer first, I want you to approve it first. And we had another group that came in and they were like, hey, you can come in and you can do the or we'll do tickets. It'll be me and it'll be my boyfriend. And it was like, oh crap, we're gonna have to do this thing again. And so we turned around and we said to everybody, all right, that's fine, we'll do it, but if we lose money, it'll be it. And we went on a streak then for the next 7 or 8 years. We never made more than $200. We never lost money. We always talked about how crazy that was, because like if 2 cars that were coming to the show got in an accident with each other on their way to the show, we would have lost money. But we always kept it at that rate, and it just kind of became like a social gathering even for us. And we stopped really trying to go after the hardcore, like the hardest of the hardcore, because we knew that the reason that the people that we had in 2004 that liked the show was less for the like, oh my god, here's this like super rarity, and more because they were like, hey, there's a social aspect to this, and I get to learn why you like certain stuff. And that's kind of been the transformation of the show ever since then. And we've continued to do it ever since then. And what's crazy is that those people that all saved the show, everybody is continuing to this day to be involved with the show. The boyfriend and girlfriend who did tickets are now married. They help run the museum. The guy who found the location is one of the main people that has run the museum every year since then. The people that did the flyers, one of them is working on some 25th anniversary stuff with me. I share a space about, I don't know, a mile from here for one of our other storage locations with one of them. There's just a ton of awesome stuff like that. And the fact that the show means something to people on that level is what's really kept it around. And so like at the beginning you said like, yeah, he's the one that organizes all this. All that I really do is have people that do awesome stuff, and I just go yes to them and then figure out how we can put them in. And I always joke that like, yeah, I can do certain things, I can fix machines or whatever, but I can't do what we have at the show. And the show has become its own beast because it's also just unique. One of the things that I don't know that this is up on the website yet, but one of the things that we're really excited to announce for this year is that we are adding speed puzzling to the show. So speed puzzling is when yeah. So you have a puzzle.
Okay.
Like me, I would have a puzzle and you would have a puzzle, and people would go, all right, get ready, get set, and go. And we'd open up the puzzles and do them as quickly as we can. And whoever wins.
How many pieces?
What?
How many pieces?
I don't know. Like, I think it depends on what you want to do.
1,500?
I don't think it's that
I don't
many,
think my dad could do that.
If it is, I like doing puzzles. And if it's that many, I'm going to feel really, really not very good at puzzles because those take me a few days. But like,
Yeah,
even
my
if it's up to
dad
like,
takes, I don't know how many days it takes him to put the puzzle together.
yeah, even if it's a 100-piece puzzle, it's a unique challenge, and it's something that there's a growing community for it. And they came to us and they were like, "Oh my God, can we do this?" And our answer is always, "Of course you can. Come on in." And then we find space for it. And like last year, we had Beyblades come to us with like a week before the show, and they were like, "Hey, it's too late, but can we come look at the show, and then maybe next year we could do something?" We're like, "No, no, no. We will find you space." And we found them space and stuff like that. And it's just something that at like a regular quote unquote like traditional game show, it would be really weird to have like different topics like fly in like that. And at our show, it's just what our audience kind of expects. And then it's unique because you walk around and you're just like, what is this? And then the people that are there are like, oh my God, let me tell you why speed puzzling is so much fun. And like sometimes you're going to check out speed puzzling and be like, totally not for me. And that's fine. And other times people are going to check it out and be like, I had no idea. And so like I have a set of friends who come to the show every year. They're big pinball people. They bring pinball machines to the show every year. They go to 4 or 5 different big pinball shows every year. When they come to my show, when they come to our show, they are like, oh, when we get to Midwest Gaming Classic, we drop off our pinball machines, and then we do not play pinball for the rest of the weekend. We go to the board games, and we play board games the entire time because board games are really fun. But we would never go to a board game convention, but we have that here. And so this is the show that we do that at. And that's like the uniqueness of our show, is that it gives you these opportunities to like sample all these different things. And now we've become really big because of how many people have kind of seen that vision and said, ooh, I can add this to it. There's not many shows. Last year we did 36,000 people. There's not many shows even that are smaller. Yeah. And there's not many shows that are smaller that when you walk in, you go, I can be part of this, because like there a lot of shows, how they're set up. And by the way, to be clear, this is the smart way to set up a show. What they do is that they go, all right, we want arcade games. And they call up a company, maybe me, and they go, we'd like to rent 20 arcade games. And they have a group that goes, great, here's the cost. And then they bring in their 20 arcade games, and that those are going to work. And there they are. And then they're like, oh, we want consoles. And they do the same thing where they call up someone for consoles. Here's the consoles, done. And then, oh, we want tabletop games. Again, same type of thing, done. At our show, we don't really do any of that, where you can walk in and like, I like to talk about how a couple of years ago, when WWE 2K24 came out, and good Lord, my camera has watched me out. Let me try it.
It's actually, the brightness keeps going up and down.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what's going on. I
think the pinballs behind there. I think what's going on is the pinball machines behind there. It's adjusting for the pulsating lights of the pinballs.
Sorry, I'll sit in front of Deadpool. Now it looks like I've got a halo every so often.
I don't know.
So
it'll be all right.
Anywho, what's interesting about it all now is that we have had this scenario where, like a couple of years ago, we had the creators of WWE 2K24, and they were set up, and they weren't the actual development house. They were one that did accoutrement for it. So like, you probably know this, but like most modern developers, they make the game, but then they'll hire people to do certain aspects of it. And I believe that the group that they had in was specifically the ones that did the Build-A-Wrestler portion of the game. Okay. I think that was what they did. Anyway, those guys were there showing what they did for WWE 2K24. Directly beside them, we had a kid that was 10 years old that made a game out of dice. And like, we specifically put stuff like that there to say to people like, hey, anybody can get involved with this. And so it's awesome, because after even at the show, people come in and they instantly feel like, I can get involved with this if I want to. And so it's a really unique environment because of that. And we just keep trying to cultivate that as best we can.
You mentioned WWE 2K4. So I have this much later in the, I wrote a few things down because I needed to have something I wanted to cover. Yeah. I have noticed the trend, and I've been trying to get away from the wrestling stuff because I've been too involved in it over the past 2 decades. Drama happened to me 2023 that made me had to take a sabbatical from it for a while, but
Mhm.
now it seems like I'm fully integrated with it again. But wrestling has been infiltrating the game cons a lot more and more. And you've had wrestling at Midwest Gaming Classic the last few years.
Yeah.
ACW and Bruce City. I how much? I guess how involved is the wrestling scene with the gaming scene?
So our show was one of the first shows that I know of that had this as a crossover.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the story of how it all came together. Because again, I just described how Midwest Gaming Classic so often as someone walks in, sees stuff, goes, ooh, how can I use my passion there? And then once that happens, we start figuring out how we can fit in. In 2019, we invited some different guests to the show, and we had some pretty big name guests. It was the first year we had some wrestling guests come to the show. We had 2 wrestling guests that year in particular. We had Ted DiBiase and we had Eric Bischoff.
Yep.
And it was a very interesting year for both of them because we had Eric that was talking about how WCW and video games kind of went together and some of the like behind the scenes stuff on that. They actually just did a podcast talking about that with him not too many weeks ago. And it's something that I was like, I'm shocked that they haven't covered this before, because it was something that I think is really an interesting aspect of it. If you think about the N64, some of the top selling games on it were the WCW NWO Revenge and the WWE WrestleMania 2000. And like that era of games was so important to that aspect of time. And obviously wrestling was very cultural also at that point of time. So we wanted Eric to talk about that. And then Ted DiBiase was fascinating. I got put in touch with him because someone kind of knew him that I knew. And so they were like, oh, I saw that you announced Eric Bischoff. You should also have Ted DiBiase come out. I know him. I can get you his number. And I was like, well, okay. And so I talked with him, and we had a nice little conversation. And he was like, yeah, this sounds really fun. I'd love to come out. But then he was like, but I got to be honest with you. I never played any of the games. And he was like, is that going to be a problem? And I was like, no. I said, honest to God, that would be really weird. And this is true. I used to be an exec for Six Flags. And I said to him, that was how, like, when I was an executive at Six Flags, everybody was like, oh, so you just ride the rides all day. And it's like, no, when work is done, the last thing that I wanted to do was be like, oh, work is done. Let me stay at work doing something else. So like I would leave. And I said, Ted, to me, it makes 100% sense that the last thing that you would want to do when you are done doing your job is play yourself doing your job more. And I was like, all that I want you to do is to be honest about that. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And he started to get comfortable with that. And then we decided, because we don't ever take ourselves very seriously. And so we start jokes with one another. And then once we start jokes with one another, they become things that we do. And our joke that year was, oh my God, we should make this into a storyline that Ted DiBiase is so concerned because he's not good at games that he made himself the Midwest Gaming Classic champion. And so we got a belt. This is where the belt.
Okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah, the belt is actually, I can grab it. It's sitting right over here.
Go ahead and grab the belt. But
Give me 3 seconds.
I know. I know somebody else with a similar belt. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. Just full disclosure. So 2019, Ted DiBiase and Eric Bischoff showed up. Then we had COVID year in 2020. Then flash forward to November 2021 approximately, and ACW Wisconsin is in the house putting on a wrestling show. I filmed all that and aired it on my public access show.
Oh, nice.
Johnny Cass didn't even know that footage existed. but
Ah,
I filmed it, and he got
okay.
to see
Well,
himself enter the ring for the first time with the belt.
that's awesome. So yeah, this belt was created for two different reasons. The first reason was so secretly we produced the belt. It's funny
Right.
because people to this day are like, it's so nice that Ted DiBiase made you that belt. And I'm like, okay. Like,
Did he? I didn't know
no,
that.
no. But
course
people
not.
believe. You got to believe, right? Like, it's more fun to believe.
I didn't even think of it. I didn't even guess who made the
Yeah.
belt.
That's what we said that it was, is that like, hey, but so we were looking for something that we could take because we do a lot of like little events where we don't have electricity. And
Right.
so we were like, we want something cool that we can take and we can plop on a table and that people will be interested in. And we were like, this is it. This is a neat thing that we can put on a table. People will walk up to it, be like, hey, take my picture. You take their picture. And then like literally what will happen is people will walk away. And then 5 minutes later, they'll be like, oh, I posted that on social media. What's Midwest Gaming Classic? And so then we're like, oh, that's what, let me tell you about it. And so people get interest in the show and they're telling people on social media. It's really good for that. And so we made this thing and it's got like all of this really cool detail to it. And we had Ted show up with it at the show. The first time that we unveiled it was we have a picture of Ted standing with it saying that he made it and that his whole thing was that he was going to that he brought it because he was the best video game champion and was so excited to show it to everybody. So again, kind of a callback to what he did in the 80s with the $1 million belt, right? And what ended up happening was first we had this competition and Johnny was the one that won, and that set him down a whole nother road. And like that was positive. But then after it, I started to have people come up to me that were like, hey, I wrestle with this organization. Can we wrestle here next year? Like that would be so cool. And like I said, at Midwest Gaming Classic, I have a specific answer every single time. It is, yes, let me find you space. And so that's how it really started, was that it was a, yes, let me find you space. And then we did. And we had ACW the first year. We've had Brew City a couple times, and we went back to ACW last year. And there's no issues with anybody or anything like that. I love them both. If we could, we'd have both of them go at the same times. It's just kind of been a scheduling thing. And so far it's worked out that we've had one or the other there. And it's a blast. And so why does it work with us? It's because everything works with us. I mean, we have stuff that as we grow, we sometimes go to things that I would say are tangential to gaming, but are still passions for people. And so another thing that if you walk through our vendor hall, there's all the movie replica cars, right? So none of those are real.
Like, you froze for a second.
Did I? Am I back?
I think you're good.
Okay, sorry.
I'm gonna throw this on the screen, by the way.
Oh,
this is from she's 2021.
Yep.
Or no, yeah,
this is 2021 because we had no space to put this ring, and so it ended up in the hallway, and we only did it for one day.
This is actually a better spot, in my opinion, but
there's some pros and there's some cons to it. The issue now is that 20. Here's a crazy stat. That 2021 show had about 1/3 of the people that this year's show had.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that we expected it to be decently popular. Mm-hmm. The estimate in 2021 was that over 500 people were there each time that people were wrestling. Mm-hmm. And what you can't see here is that the crowd goes back further here, and it especially went back kind of behind us to a point that there was real issues walking. And so anyway, we couldn't keep it there, but we saw that it was popular and we were like, heck yeah, like this is great. What I was saying though, is that we have those movie cars that come to the show. So they're not the original movie cars. What they are is that there's people who love recreating cars. And so they have a club where they recreate their own cars. Mm-hmm. And then they bring them to our show to show off. And so it's not specific to gaming. And like some of them are really unique. Every year we announce the Jurassic Park, which one is it? It's not the Jeep, it's the other one. It's the like Park Rover. And every year when we show pictures of it, I have people that will write in and be like, that is not what was in the movie. And it's not, because the guy made a replica of what was in the book.
Yeah.
And I always say that very specifically in the post, is that this is a replica based on the description in the book. And every time people are like, that's not what it was. And it's like, no, here's the exact page where they described this in the book. And so like he made that based on that. There is no other one like that. And again, it's a passion that he has. And what's interesting is that he has pointed out that his replica is very similar to the Sega CD game, because the Sega CD game worked off of the book and did not have the movie script. And so I forget which way it was. I think that the movie uses Fords and the book uses a Toyota, or vice versa. And that's like the flip that was done. And so we're always looking to have people that have a passion. And as long as it fits in with it, it's fine by us. I've had wild things proposed to me, and pretty much every time the answer is sure. And it just comes down to what we can make that works out. The only thing that we won't do is if it is so far a sconce of what like we're trying to do that it just wouldn't fit in, but then people aren't proposing those to us anyway.
I gotta show this. This is Johnny Cass making his way to the ring for the first time, wearing the Midwest Gaming Classic belt before he actually debuted as a wrestler.
Yep. He was in training at this time.
Yep. I had my own belt at the time. I had the Galvin Ghost Arcade Gamer of the Year belt at this point. So I was wearing that across my torso while filming the show to air for my public access program. So, and I had Johnny Cass on my show podcast. I don't know how many, few months ago.
That's awesome. I love Swoggle's Dreamcast shorts here too, by the way.
That reminds me. So last year's pin, I think, was a Sega Dreamcast one.
Yeah, it was a Sega Dreamcast based on one. I believe that the swirl in it was blue, which technically is the European Dreamcast. I'm a huge Dreamcast fan, so I have, just off camera, I have every Dreamcast game. So here, I'm pulling out a random one of the PAL one. I don't have the Japanese ones. I do have all the PAL ones. But so Japan had the blue, and so since we're blue and yellow as our logo, we did blue and yellow for ours. But yes, that was what we did. Let me put that down.
And I didn't get one because I did not discover this little thing in my goodie bag. My very important gamer bag. It's like, where did this come from? So I'm bringing this.
I will.
In addition to I always buy the very important gamer package every year because I don't want to wait in line. Which 2023, the line on Saturday morning to get in went literally around the entire Wisconsin Center, and that's quite a distance to walk.
Yeah.
If you want to make a lap.
So it's an interesting thing because there's a number of us that have either worked for other shows or, like I said, I was an exec for Six Flags. We have other people that were large entertainment venue people on our team. And that's one of the other things that makes us kind of unique, is that we really have a lot of experience doing this type of stuff. 2023 was look, COVID happened.
Yeah.
That was 2020. And there's a much longer dark story here that I don't want to get into completely because I don't want to go back to that place. But COVID happened.
Oh, I just an aside. I couldn't wait to go back to Midwest Gaming Classic after they started opening everything back up. So,
well, thank you for doing it, because so here's the thing: we were canceled 3 weeks before the show, right? Yeah. And as I've said to people, thank God we were, because if we weren't, we would have been super out of business. Because we were like right in the time that nobody really knew anything about what was going on, other than this was not good. And that's where we were. And so some people are like, don't you wish that you just had it? And the answer is no, because if we just had it, nobody would have shown up and it would have been really bad.
It would have just been me.
Yeah, it would have been you, me, and like, I don't know, a couple dozen other people. And I guess it would have been really fun to be at, but it would have been really sad for the show and we would have absolutely gone belly up afterwards.
Right.
We were under the belief, because of the insurance that we had, that we would hopefully eventually get a payout that would help. That has never happened. And there is a much longer story there, but it is what it is. And I will simply say that a lot of people did handshake deals to. Did I freeze again?
Look who it is. Johnny Cass has joined the stream for the first time.
Nice. Hi, Johnny. Yeah, I need to get back to Johnny an email. I'm finally starting to catch up on that. You are the one that caught me at the start of this, but that's now my goal, is to get through all of that. Anywho, to finish what I was saying, we had that year where it was just like, oh, okay, so everything got canceled, and we were hoping for this, and we were trying to figure out how to survive. And I had just gone full-time on the show before that, because in 2018, when we moved downtown, I had been doing a different job, and I had quit with the belief that I was going to do a little bit of side hustling, a little bit of home repair, and then I would do a day of this, have a down year, and then go back into the workforce and do this in my spare time like I'd always done before. That wasn't possible. It was crazy. I ended up doing just MGC stuff in 2018, not getting paid for it. And that year, because of the snowstorm, we didn't make any money, which the following year, it was like, we have to figure out a way to give me some sort of salary, because otherwise I'm not going to have a wife or a life or anything. And quite frankly, she would have been right. But so we figured that out. 2019, we also had a snowstorm on Sunday. And so we basically broke even on 2019, but it wasn't still good. And we were finally like, all right, 2020 is where everything is going to get fixed.
I got something I need to, jeez. Do I have the dangum stat? Hang on.
Yeah.
So there was a particular year where I was driving back from Midwest Gaming Classic. I think this is the trophy back here in my daggone trophy case, because I had to push.
I'm glad that you're saying trophy, because I was worried that you were going to show me a picture of a crashed car, honestly.
No. Well, thank goodness
God.
I don't have a crashed car.
Good.
But regardless, driving back from Wisconsin, Milwaukee area. So this is the Midwest Gaming Classic 2012 Pac-Mania title.
Wow. Pac-Mania. So, yes.
2012 was a blizzard.
That was another one?
That was the worst. And I drove home and did not make it home. I got to Lincoln, which is about 30, 40 miles from home, and it was like, I got the very last hotel room because the interstate was closed. I was having a hard time driving. It was about, 12, 15 inches of snow that got dumped in central Illinois.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I didn't have to go to work the next day. They closed the state down, or at least the Springfield area.
Yeah.
So, God.
Yeah. No, it's whatever. 2012 was lucky because it didn't for us, it was lucky because it at least didn't blizzard during the show. So like, I think that might have been the last year that we made like $100 total or whatever. But that happened in both 2018, 2019, 2020 hit. And like, we didn't have any cash reserves. We didn't have any backup. Luckily, we were still doing Goat Store and JJ Games, and those made a little bit of money until we started running low on inventory, enough to kind of float us along. And then in 2021, the venue basically was like, you have to hold a show or else we're keeping all of your money, which, by the way, is not what our contract said. But I was like, well, if I say like, screw you to the venue, we don't have a venue. Like, there's no way that we can move this unless if we move it out of state somewhere. And so we came back with the idea of, well, we're going to lose either $100,000 or we're going to lose whatever we lose by running the show. And we did lose significant in that 2021 year. And then in 2022, we came back and I did not know the whole time, was like, man, if we don't get to the show and have decent walk up, like, it's not going to happen again. And luckily we had decent walk up. And then 2023 was kind of the same thing, because we got by at the skin of our teeth in 2022. And I said, like, man, if we don't have like even better attendance next year. Like this is crazy. I can't keep doing this. I was doing basically 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, just trying to keep things afloat. And there was a period of the better part of a year that I didn't deposit a check from the company because I was like, hey, if I deposit that, we will be insolvent. And I don't want to be insolvent because that would suck. So it was rough. And the good news is that the last couple of years, we have finally kind of turned the corner. We're still not like out of the woods yet. If I took everything that we had and sold everything that we had, I think that I can equal the COVID loan that we had to take out to like keep things going. But we're now at least in a spot where the show itself generally is on solid footing, and that's been really helpful with all of that. And so yeah, it's the return from COVID was fascinating because the first couple of years were it was so rough to organize those because they were just not sure how things were going with the virus. And what I mean by that isn't even like on a like person to person basis, but also like if we have a variant spike, no one will show up. So a lot of these companies were debating like, well, are we going to even bring something out there? And like, for instance, after we had the 2021 show, that was in November. And then in 2022, we had a show in April.
Which after that first show that I'm showing that I got on the screen right now. This is my walkthrough tour of 2022.
Yeah. That was an interesting year too, because we got stuck with downstairs for a vendor hall at the last minute.
I will say this, 2021, 2022 being 6 months apart, I give you credit for making both shows very different. Now that might be a factor of who was available in November versus April, but
no, it
was all unique. There's completely different things, lot of completely different things in both shows.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It was, I mean, so here's the crazy part. So this show, the one that we're looking at right now, this came together absolutely everybody, because after the 2021 show in November, there was a variant of COVID that spiked. And I learned way too much about forecasting viruses and stuff like that because of all of this. I was talking with different experts and stuff like that to try to understand everything. And everybody was telling me, you'll be fine. The variant is going to essentially burn itself out by mid-February. And I was talking to all these different groups and companies, and everybody else was, being like they should be a little bit more apprehensive about it. That it's their money on the line. And so everybody was like, oh, we'll see. I'm not sure if we can do it. It was February 13th, because that's also my birthday. On February 13th of that year was the first day that everybody started to write to me and be like, all right, it looks like the variant is going down. Let's set something up. So this show was really put into place in about 45 days.
Wow.
And and it was absolutely nuts. It was essentially me and Gabby and a couple other people working nonstop. And it wasn't that many more, because like you can't train people when you have like an emergency situation going on. You train people when things are calm. This was like a 5-alarm fire of like, I got something written to me and I would need to like confirm it and put it up on the website and write them back all at the same time. And I had to do that with everything. And it was something where people really came together, and a lot of people that participated in 2021. It's neat that you picked up on that. That it was so different, because a lot of people, there's Derp Princess Derp, as we like to call her, because her head doesn't stick up right. And so a lot of people that returned were like, all right, we need to do something different at both shows. And so that was a very deliberate thing that a lot of people outside of me did, because like I said, there wasn't enough time from an organizational standpoint to really do that much. The one thing that, if I'm not mistaken, that this show had, as a matter of fact, seeing Respawn there, I'm all but positive that this is the show that debuted Danky Kang. That's Dave Smith that just walked by. Dave Smith is one of the other guys that helps run the show and has for years.
I think Danky Kang did make its debut. Yeah.
Do you know the story of Danky Kang?
Happened.
Do you know the story of Danky?
Go ahead.
Do you know the story of Danky Kang?
That was a bad answer on Jeopardy, Final
Okay,
Jeopardy, when they're
that is
trying
not.
to
I
answer a
believe that that's
question.
a true thing, but we did not know that until after he was made. So he was not inspired by that. So what happened?
Really?
Not at all. So here's what happened. We went to a show called EverCon. EverCon is a gaming event in central Wisconsin. EverCon is awesome, and I encourage everybody to look it up if you want. It's like almost an old school Midwest Gaming Classic.
Hmm.
It's got everything. They start as more of a tabletop show, so they're a little bit heavier on their tabletop stuff than their video game stuff, but they have a great video game stuff. We do a thing. Respawn is there, and that's how I remember this. So we were at that show, and when we got there, it was the first time we had ever gone there. They had like an 8-foot inflatable dragon, and it was there. And me and Chris, who works with me, we saw this dragon, and Chris is like, "Dan, we're a bigger show. We need a bigger inflatable." And I was like, "Yeah, we do. What should we get?" And so we went to charge the car. I have an electric car. And so it was super cold and the chargers were just a little bit away. So we drove the car up to charge it. And as we're charging it, we're in the car. It was like seriously like -5 out. So we're just in the car instead of going anywhere. It wasn't long that we were there, but we started just joking with one another.
Hmm.
Oh my God, what is the giant inflatable that we should get? And so we looked up giant inflatables on eBay, and we find these gorillas that are holding up cars, and they have on like pool floaties, and the pool floaty makes them look kind of inappropriate in one of the pictures. And so because of that, me and Chris start laughing so hard, and he's like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get that guy, we're gonna call him Dank Kang, and he's gonna be the dankest of all Kangs, and he's gonna be at the front of the show because he's gonna be 26 feet tall." And we are laughing to the point that we cry. So that weekend,
Goodness.
we're now back at the show, and people are asking, and we were joking, by the way, because of the November dates, we were looking like we were like wildly ahead on ticket sales. And like, so it was like impossible. I usually can compare like year to year, like this is what we had last year versus this is what we have this year. Because we just had the show, it was like we have no idea what's going on, but it looks like we are way ahead on ticket sales because of when we put them on versus how long it's been and stuff like that. So, and by the way, we're a little bit further out from COVID, and so again, people are getting more comfortable and stuff like that. So we have these other vendors at EverCon that are coming up to us, and they're saying, "Hey, how's attendance looking? How are things going?" And like, we're joking, "Oh yeah, well, attendance right now looks like it's going to be 400% of what it was in November." And we were saying, if it's that big, we're going to have to get somewhere to put everybody. And so we're going to rent out a spare room, and we'll just put random stuff in there. And then Chris, I think, was the first one that said, "We're going to get a giant inflatable and call it Danky Kang." And if you hear that we announced that Danky Kang is coming to the show, you know that we're going to have like 50,000 people showing up. And so this became this thing where we constantly had people, Respawn was one of them, that throughout the weekend we're going, "Danky Kang!" And then we would go, "Danky Kang!" And we'd all run around like idiots. And the
Wow.
EverCon is ending, and we're driving back, and I'm like, "I think we need to make Danky Kang happen. It's too funny." And Chris is like, "Yeah, I think we do." And so I contacted one of the people selling these, and I said, "How much is it to customize one of these?" And it was far less than what we expected. And so we bought it. And then His Majesty has been with us ever since. And it's honestly great because it's this unique thing where when you come to the show, if you've never been to the show before, you take your picture in front of Danky Kang because he's the dankest of all Kangs, and that's what you do. But the other thing that's just hilarious about it is that when you see that picture of someone else on social media, you're like, "What is that?" And they just respond with "Danky Kang," and like it doesn't make any sense. So it's an in joke that you're a part of the instant that you get there because you see on the sign that his name is Danky Kang, and then now you have this like funny, weird, stupid in joke, and it's wonderful.
Oh, I took my photo of me holding my Gamer of the Year championship
Yeah.
underneath.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Well, and
Kang.
he has a perfect replica of the Midwest Gaming Classic belt on because, like I said, the pool floaty looked wildly inappropriate from the side. And we
Right.
were like, we can't do that because like that just looks ridiculous. And so in talking with them, I was out to eat with one of our family friends, and I was talking about how, yeah, we're going to make this big gorilla and we're going to call him Dangy Kang. It's hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, we're trying to figure out what we should put around his waist. And she just goes, well, duh, the Midwest Gaming Classic belt. And I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And I contacted them, and they got the design files from this belt, and they put the design files directly onto him. So he has the exact same belt. And yeah, we enjoy his presence every year.
We just walked by Paul Niemeyer. Apparently, lawyers for Warner Brothers gave him a hard time at the Midwest Gaming Classic.
It was at the Midwest Gaming Classic? I hadn't heard that.
I guess they paid him a visit when stealthily, though, took photos and then said, oh, you can't use the Mortal Kombat logo for your display. And they gave the Mortal Kombat actors a hard time, too. But the problem was Paul Niemeyer created the daggum logo.
Right.
Warner Brothers, that's rich for Warner Brothers to say, oh, you can't show off your own creation. Like, give me a break.
Right.
If it's not for Paul, you wouldn't even have this.
Right.
The IP, that is.
Right. Absolutely.
So.
All right. So now I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the show? Why do you keep returning?
I'm a gamer. I like playing games. I was originally going for playing arcade games and pinball because, everything's on free play. And then the giant flea market with all these games that I was like seeing stuff that I don't get to see normally.
Yeah.
But originally, yes, it was playing pinball, playing arcade games because, 2000s, the arcade scene was kind of in decline because, there are fewer arcades around.
It really was.
Yeah. Yeah. At least until 2011 rolled around, but I didn't make it. Here's the thing. Galvin Ghost Arcade, I guess, was coming around Midwest Gaming Classic around 2022 or 21, 22, 23. Actually brought, the horror story that they brought Primal Rage 2, and then someone spilled a beer on the control panel, and it got to the board.
That was in the 2015s. In 2015 or 16, something like that. That was at
Sheraton. Brookfield Sheraton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arcade game on my radar when at the Midwest Gaming Classic. So that's how I kind of got over there, is through seeing finding out about them through Midwest Gaming. If you were to ask me, how did I come to find out about Midwest Gaming Classic back in 2004? That was going to be my next question. I was thinking about it while we're having this discussion, and I don't remember. It could have been I saw a post on MySpace.
Okay.
For all I know. But I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's an
Billy
interesting...
Mitchell was there that year, by the way.
He was. I have a signed Miss Pac-Man game right over there from him, which is one of those things where, like, part of me is like, yeah, that was really cool. And part of me is like, I feel like he became the guy that he was portrayed as after that, which was interesting.
Where did I get my card?
Yeah, that was, all of that was a fascinating thing. And it's interesting too, because like so many people are like you, that once they started coming, they come pretty much every year, if not every year. And it's interesting the hold that the show has on people that way. I talk about a couple of years ago, I think 5 years ago now, I posted the entranceway for where we hosted the 2001 and 2002 show. It so happens it was in the basement of the Boy Scout Service Center. The Boy Scout Service Center is about, I don't know, half a mile probably from where I live right now. And my dad had worked for the Boy Scouts. And so he was able to say, hey, you can use the basement on this day and I'll give it to you for free. And the deal was, if you make money, just donate it to the Boy Scouts, or donate some of it to the Boy Scouts was what was said. And so, cool. we were like, let's figure this out. Let's do this. And so anyway, we ran that show. I came in, I took a picture because I was by the Boy Scout Service Center. So I stopped, took a picture of that entryway, and I posted it online, and I just said something like where it began, where it started, I think what it was, because people are doing that where it started, where it is type post. So I just said where it started. We had like a dozen people on that post that were like, oh, heck yeah, I remember coming in 2001. Yep, been there every year since 2001. There are so many people that have come every single year since then, and it's fascinating. The other thing that's fascinating is that our first year we were Atari Jaguar Festival, and as Atari Jaguar Festival, we like interacted with people online, and when I run into those people in real life, like we'll just chat for a long time. I went to Vintage Computer Festival a month and a half ago, and one of the guys who was on the forums came up to me and he was like, hey, I'm so and so from the forums. And I was like, oh my god, we chatted for an hour, like literally about different things. And he was like, I never get to talk to you at MGC. I've been there every single year, but I don't get to talk to you because you're always running around. And I'm like, dude, you can stop me, like I will say hi to you. And yeah, it's fascinating.
This is another part of the.
Yeah,
this
one
I
must
think
have
the
been.
classic area.
Wait. Is this 2022 also? This looks like
This is still
2022.
2022. This is
Yep.
all my footage. I'm not sure where we're at.
By the way, I saw you and Cynical Enigma talking about VIG, and so here's my little plug for VIG. 3 different things. First of all, is it's a great bonus to be able to do all the different things at the show, which is what VIG does. The other thing that it really does for us is that it helps us afford to do things, because one of the things that has really started to happen now is that every year more and more costs get pushed up earlier and earlier for us.
Yeah.
And so if we don't have people, like I've said, we're not in a financial situation where like I get to swim in the money bin when I'm done. We we do what we can, but we still need people to help every year. And so when people do VIG, every year that money goes immediately to paying off the bills that we need to pay in advance for the Wisconsin Center or for nailing down certain details. This year, one of the things that we are working on is we've had screens in the past which are like very big. They have like 4 TVs to them, and they're neat, but they take forever to set up, and the pieces for them are like minuscule, and you need every single one of them, and they're impossible to track down. And we had spares of everything, and this last year we ran out of spares. And so we're working on buying a set of very big like LED panels, and like trying to figure out how to navigate like, you know, tariffs and all that other stuff for getting them in while being able to pay like not all of our money for them and stuff like that. And like the people that purchase those passes help us to be able to make those types of things, because like for those panels, hopefully we're going to be able to get them. And if we do, I have to order them like 3 months before the show, because they have to be made, they have to be shipped. Like I could get them faster, but then I'm going to pay through the nose for shipping. And so like to do all of that type of stuff, you know, like I have to have that fully together in 2 months basically. And so the people that are willing to step up and do that, we like to do what we can in return. And one of the things that is really unique is that we always do that NES game badge for the VIG. And what I've always been kind of surprised by is that those game badges, every so often someone will sell one of those on eBay, and they generally sell for like half the cost, if not more, for a VIG ticket. And I'm glad that nobody really sells them, because they're supposed to be kind of like a thank you for that. But it's also supposed to be like this unique, like, hey, here's like some real value that you get from it. Because if you're going to go out and buy a newly made NES game, you're going to spend 40 or 50 bucks on it. And like, not to pat myself on the back, but the games that we've produced are freaking awesome. How they usually work is that we have NES Maker, their best game of the year gets an MGC version. So like the game that they give a reward to, the game that they give the award to the previous year then comes the next year. And like 1 year we had Doodle World come, and when Doodle World was there, Nintendo actually approached them and said, hey, can we get this on the Nintendo Switch? And so like there's this really unique thing that happens with it. So Mandalorian, that's a good game.
So Midwest Gaming is pretty much the fastest 48 hours of the year.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, I think I know what your question's going to be. Can I
so
guess? Can I
now
guess?
Friday night ended up being the preview night for VIG pass
Yep.
holders. Yeah, because jeez, you've resisted going longer than
Yep.
48 hours.
This is what I thought your question was going to be.
But there seems to be an unofficial extra few days because of SchifferCon, which comes
CypherCon.
right before
Yeah.
Midwest Gaming.
Yep.
And now some of the vendors are doing both of those. So you resisted expanding, but then somebody, I think, stepped in to expand for you.
Sort of. So CypherCon is actually, it's completely different. And unfortunately, and this has nothing to do with CypherCon, they are great. I love the guy that runs them. He loves me. It's a love fest. However, they're not going to be before us this year. However, yeah, and
wow.
I'll return to why in just a second. What CypherCon is, and they still exist, they are a professional hacking convention, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so they actually asked me to come in and to do a funny, this is a callback to the Inhabitants that was being shown in the 2004 video, one of the Dreamcast games. They asked me to come in because we produced five different Dreamcast games that were legitimately running on Dreamcast hardware. And when we produced those games, they like we had to do all this different stuff, and we helped. We did not program them, but we helped with all the legal stuff and all this other stuff. And so they had me come in to discuss what that was like and like what it's like to hack a console. And so I was actually one of the like top speakers one year for that, which was really fascinating. That hockey game someone gave to me. That is in my storage place. It started popping fuses every time you turn it on, and I don't know why, but that is one of the coolest things that I've ever gotten as a gift. Sorry. Back to what I was saying. So CypherCon ran before the show like that, and we were talking after that. Sorry, let me rewind. We were talking after I had been speaking at their show.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how similar we were. And Mike was saying, we keep getting these really high costs because of the fact that we're smaller. And I kept saying, we could get a better cost if we can expand our dates somewhat. And we put our heads together and we were like, we could help each other out. And he had been running CypherCon because it's a more professional type, it's a security convention. So he was like, all right, we're going to run this right before you guys do. They actually were running it on a Thursday, Friday, all the way before us. Great. And so they came in, and then they were able to bring in people that were related. And so we used some of the same people. So it wasn't actually an official expansion of it. And believe it or not, the CypherCon tickets, greatly more expensive than ours, because again, it was more of a like security conference for different people. There were, it's funny because Midwest Gaming Classic doesn't really get huge sponsors, and that's fine. If you're a huge sponsor and want to come to the show, great. I'm here to take your call, but I'm also not like begging them to come here. CypherCon got all of those people because it's where all the top security people in the world were.
Right.
And so their tickets were much more expensive than us. It was a much more exclusive thing. But yeah, there were after parties and arcades and stuff like that. And it was a really great symbiotic relationship. The only reason that we're not doing it anymore is that CypherCon got to the point that they were like, we need more space. And they kept we kept trying to figure out more and more space. And then we also kept being like, we need more space. And finally we got to the point where it was like, all right, I don't have enough space to.
We might have to.
And so, like last year, their main speaking area was actually in the back of the Tabletop Village, and like there was a big nightmare on Friday night where they closed, and we had to like switch out all of that, and like their people helped with it, but like I had to fully do that because we had to bring in vendors and stuff like that. Their speaking ended, I think, at 5 o'clock in there, and so they didn't even start switching until 6. And like that was really tough. And then Mike this year was like, we need even more space. And I was just kind of like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah, I can't do that. And like I said, he's great, and I wish them nothing but the best. But it just became something where, you know, the more bigger that we get, the more harder it is to be able to have two great events like that side by side. But yeah,
And
so
they had been growing too.
yeah, no, both of us have grown like crazy. And to kind of answer the question that I thought you were going to ask, which is why don't you ever do a third day? It comes down
Full day
to,
anyway, because you're
yeah, well,
already
and for
kind
now
of
at
doing
least, it
that.
comes down to two things. The first thing is that so many people that set up stuff, like again, at a normal show, if you want if you want 40 arcade games to show up,
Mhm.
you call me up and you say, hey, I want 40 arcade games to show up. And I say, great, when do you want them? And I write that down. And I say, great, when are they going to go to? And I write that down. And then I give you a price and you say, great. And then we do that as a transaction. We're done. At our show, almost everything that's there is someone going, oh, I'm going to set this up. And a lot of people, they take off of work on Thursday and Friday, Thursday to pack up and Friday to set up and Monday to tear down. And like any time that we're expanding it is us saying to everybody, we need you to take off more work. And that's where it becomes much harder for us to do.
I'm wondering how Pinball Expo does it.
Pinball Expo,
they start
yep.
Wednesday.
Yep. I mean, I can answer that.
Go ahead.
Pinball Expo, and like, not an insult, Pinball Expo is in huge. It's funny, the marquee that you just saw is the pinball machine that my computer is sitting on right now. The expo, the way that it is run is that the majority of the groups that are there are companies. And so if you think about it, when do companies work? They work during the week. So they tend to be more available during the week. And then the majority of the games are not brought by individuals to that show. Rob Burke, who is the guy who runs that show, good dude. He comes and he vends at our show, actually. He has one of the largest collections of pinball machines in the world.
Pastime Arcade in Girard.
Correct.
Ohio.
Exactly. Yep. I was forgetting the name. I'm glad that you pulled it out. He takes, I think, like 150 games from there and he brings them. And so it's not like us that's like, oh, we have 100 people that bring individual games and they all need to take off work and they all need to do this and they all need to do that. It's, hey, like, this is what I do and I can take this down for a weekend or whatever. And so there are far less people that go to that show that are needing to be like at other places. And so like you can totally take off. Like I have a couple friends that took off on Thursday and Friday this year to go down and hang out there. I went down myself on Thursday and you can totally do that. But then that's more of a choice. Whereas if you want to be involved with the show, our problem is that it no longer becomes a choice. If I'm like, oh, we're opening on Friday at 10 a.m. That's also why, by the way, why our hour is a little bit shorter, because we have people who, you know, if you have set something up and you're working from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. to show off your stuff, that's 10 hours. And by the time you're done, a lot of people that brought their own stuff are exhausted.
Plus, they want to run around the convention themselves.
Right, exactly. Well, and so, like, I've had people that are like, you guys should run until midnight. And it's like, I would have a bunch of people that would be like, I'm not doing this anymore because I can't do that. And so we always think about the people that are providing those things first. We also try to do stuff with the guests, which is how like the VIG after party comes in. So the after party has been something that we specifically were like, what sort of truly unique things can we do at the after party? And so like, I mentioned before that we had the tournament that Johnny actually won in 2019 with Eric Bischoff. We do stuff like that all the time. This last year, you could play a game with one of the guys from Activision who made a game. We had a foot controller for the Atari 2600. I also happen to have it sitting right by me right now. But you could play that game with a foot controller with that guy. And like, you don't usually do that, but how often are you going to play a game that a guy actually made for the 2600 like 30 years ago with him?
Kitchens.
Yeah, we've had, and like people just kind of do that. And so there's really unique events that happen there, and you get like different types of performances and stuff like that. And so that becomes like a different type of area. And so that's also why, like, I'm certain that your footage here is from Friday that you were just showing.
I'm going to guess it was.
Yep. Here's how I know. If you rewind just slightly, there was TVs that were in one of the aisles. Right there. See?
Yeah.
And so Friday is a preview night, partially because we're like that way too. If people aren't fully set up, no one's gonna like freak out and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that!" Like blah 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 about whatever, because like that type of stuff happens and it's okay. And the goal
Yeah,
again
those
is
one
that
day
it's
cons. It's
yeah,
even
well, and it's our
worse.
way of introducing people is that walk up to the person that's setting up and be like, "What are you doing here?" And so you get that interactive part of it before you get to see the display, because the following day we limited Friday to 1,000 people this last year.
Yeah.
On Saturday we did something like 21,000, I think it was, something like that. And
That was
so
this year?
what was that?
That was
Yeah, sorry,
2025?
earlier this year. That was
Okay.
earlier this year. And so, but the difference is that on Friday you can have those experiences where you can have like the chatting with the person. On Saturday, you're just like, whoa, overloaded by all the stuff going on. And so that's really the strategy behind that.
Yeah, I'm just like Friday. God. So yeah, this has been in my experience the last couple of years. I've I go out to play the games. Yes, I was buying games at the game cons, or at least Midwest Gaming. The last few years, I stopped buying games because I was finding myself with a bunch of stuff I bought that I've never played, but I bought it.
I have
So
a great
it's
story
like,
about that. I know the feeling.
yeah, so I just hit the brakes because my focus was on being a regular at Galvin Ghost,
Hmm.
chasing high scores, moving up the power rankings, chasing the titles. I have I've won four of the belts that Galvin Ghost had offered
Yeah.
over the years. Now it's all about the doggone challenge cards. Um, yeah, I want more belts around my waist. That's what I want. I want more belts, but the last couple of years, my focus has been on the retro game tournaments.
Hmm.
Gosh, it took 3 bites of the apple, but I finally won the the classic retro tournament.
Midwest, what do we call it? The
The
Mega
one that
Game
had the
Championship. Mega Game Championship, because it's the same initials as MGC. It took a while for us to come up with that name.
yeah, the first 2 years it was hosted by Phil Moore of Nick
Yep.
Arcade. He was
Yep.
not there this year.
Yep.
The grand prize the first 2 years was a guitar.
Yep.
So I win in year 3, and all I get was a lousy trophy.
Sorry.
But
Yeah,
Big
that's
Taylor's Hill
it's
has
funny
always
because that
been
sponsor is planning to
sports
come back
games.
again this year. So this year you'll probably get second again.
Say again?
I said this year the sponsor's planning to come back. So if you keep your streak alive this year, you'll end up getting second again.
Well, I suggested to them they might want to switch the games up because they've done the same
Mhm.
same games 3 years in a row. I think maybe it's time to switch it up and put some different challenges in there because you want
Yeah.
things a little fresh. You've done 3 times.
Yeah.
Certainly, year 3, I bought a copy of NBA Jam Tournament Edition for the Super NES so I could
So you could play it
practice it.
enough.
Yes,
Yeah.
and get a control scheme that I was really comfortable with, so I wouldn't, let's say, fire a pass or make an errant shot in the heat of battle
Yeah.
because I mixed up which buttons are what.
Yeah.
And I finally got through it, but geez. The person who beat
So
me the second year, I'm very familiar with because he's a regular, and
yep.
Jim Patzer took home the guitar that year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember who took it home the first year, but
Yeah, I don't either. It's a good tournament though. It's a unique thing overall.
there's not
I
very many of those because it's all about Tetris, Mario Kart, or fighting games, or pinball.
Yeah, well, and something that we tried doing with that tournament in particular is that one of the things that's really tough with tournaments is I'll give you the
Oh,
I'll
I
give you
had
the
this
year
up.
that
I'm
broke
sorry.
us. We oh, is this who I think it was?
This is Midwest Gaming Club.
Who made this one?
Me.
Okay, this is not what I was thinking that it was. I have a funny story about one of these years, but this wasn't. This was still Olympia, wasn't it?
This is Akama Walk.
Yeah.
2008.
Wow.
And
So
I snuck through this place the night before, which it was closed. But
yeah,
back then, by the way, I come up there Friday night, can't exactly run around the convention because it's not open. So
yeah.
I'm over to Milwaukee. I'm taking a wrestling show Friday night.
Mm.
And so now it just follows me over to Midwest Gaming.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because in the early days like this, so first, Economwalk was terrible at the Olympia. They don't exist anymore, so I'm going to badmouth them, and that's okay. They did not; their doors didn't lock right, and so like I had to absolutely yell at them because we had a wedding party one year that like broke in, and luckily just played with some of the games and like left beer all over everything. But
my gosh,
yeah. But that was it.
Wow.
This is the year that I designed those 3 shirts. That was the only year that I designed the shirts, and I do not think of myself as an artist, and everybody loved the shirts that year, and I still see them pop up every so often, and I'm very proud of those shirts. This is Goat Store stuff for sure. Those new games were by a company that had bought out Atari, and they had those stored in like a cave that they owned. And they were selling them. Shea Limited was what they were called. They were selling them for 80 cents a piece, and we would buy them and sell them for $5 a piece. And yeah, I mean, it was 80 cents and then like $1 a piece for shipping. But
right,
that was one of our things. So yeah, these are good years, and I know exactly what you were saying about buying games and then not playing them. I have the Dreamcast collection that I mentioned that's over here, and I did make a really good point about playing. I've played about 90% of that library, at least somewhat. But then in the early 2000s, so because we sell games on JJ Games and Goat Store, I would go to different stores and like buy stuff that we'd resell. We weren't selling PlayStation at the time, but I really liked how PlayStation long boxes looked, so I started buying them. And
FYI, the real star of the show has arrived.
Nice. We've got a couple of orange guys. Is it a boy?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Cody, and he was the one who's responsible for me missing Pinball Expo this year.
Oh.
Because he took a bite out of my left hand while I was in bed, and it was bad enough that I had to go to urgent care.
Ouch.
And then he had to go to the vet 10 days after it was reported to Animal Control, which ran smack dab in the middle of the Pinball Expo. And I had to take him to the vet. Otherwise, I could have been charged with some 4th-degree felony or something.
Yeah.
That's state law. Darn it.
Well, I'm glad that it seems like everything's back to normal. So we've got a couple orange boys upstairs.
He has displacement aggression, so he saw something outside that really upset him, like probably an intruder cat. And
then decided to
get after it. He had to lash out at somebody he could get his teeth on, and that was me. Yeah, you look guilty, don't you? You little stinker. Anyway,
so what I was saying is that I used to buy these PlayStation games, and this was like when the PlayStation was completely dying. And I shouldn't say dying. It was like when PS2 was ascendant, and so everybody was selling their PS1 games to buy PS2 games, and so everything was cheap, and there was a lot of like buy 2 get 1 free sales and stuff like that. And I went to a location, and I would see the games, and it was like, oh, I can get 3 or I can get 4 long boxes for like $3. Cool, they look great. And part of it was I'm a big basketball fan, and my favorite basketball player is Sam Cassell. And Sam Cassell was on one of the NBA games as the cover person. And it's a long box game. It's not a good game, but I was like, oh my God, I'm buying this. And then that got me, and it was buy 1, get 1 free. So I bought an additional long box, and that got me thinking like, these are cool. I really like how they look.
Hold on 1 second. That looks familiar, that Pong, because That looks like the same thing that Galvin Ghost Pong is running on. Same cabinet. Go ahead.
I don't know that one. But yeah,
I'll rewind this for a little
I bought
bit.
these PlayStation games and I started just buying whatever it was that I was missing.
Yeah, this.
And suddenly I had like 95% of the set. And so then I started looking for the last ones and I got the last ones. And I don't know, I'm guessing that I completed the set in 2006 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And like 10 years ago ish, I was looking at it and I was like, oh my God. So in the last 10 years, I have played and beat one game. And I have played.
Wait, he almost took a shot at me. I'm going to have to get him out here.
Okay.
Jeez. Ugh. I got this to use on him, but he took a lunge at me and was like, no, you're not.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Oh, he's ornery.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cats are their own creatures.
Well, it's a ginger, so they're a little more aggressive than others.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and so what I was just to finish it is that I was looking at these about 10 years after I completed the set, and I was like, oh my God, I have played one of these games and I have beaten one of these games. There are 100 games in this set. I have roughly 500 years at the rate that I'm at before I will play all of these. And I was like, why do I have these? Like these are cool, but I bought these to play, not just to stare at. And so I have since pared down on a lot of things. I have my Atari Jaguar collection, I have my Dreamcast collection. I have my original games for the Super Nintendo and NES. And I do still have that PlayStation collection, but that's partially because it's gone to the show a couple times as like here's a unique thing to look at. But like I'm not buying nearly as much as I have. Although I will say with the Switch, I've been very naughty of seeing a lot of games that I'm like, oh my God, I will totally play that. And I would guess that I've got 100 Switch games and I've played 10. So.
Uh-oh. Yeah, this is the other problem I have. Lack of time to play this stuff. And so I ended up having to go up to Galvin Ghost Arcade for the weekend, get a hotel room to binge play.
Yeah.
The entire time, which is the other great thing about Midwest Gaming. I'm binge playing besides walking around looking at all the neat stuff and kind of and I'm socializing with people I've met over the years and at least around the local gaming scene.
And absolutely, it's getting that chance to have that escape for a few minutes, and it's important. The only games that I really play actively right now, and I'm hoping this will change once my life slows down a little bit, because so every time that a new console comes out, we buy one for the show so that we can figure out what we're doing with it. And I bought a PS5 relatively early on for that purpose, and I was very excited because I loved God of War 2018. And I was like, I really want to play God of War Ragnarok. And it came free with the console that we got. And I downloaded it, and I watched the first cutscene and have not played any more of it in like 3 years. And so like eventually this will happen. But my thing is that if I've got 5 minutes, I come and I'll play a game of pinball, because pinball's quick, easy. I can play it, be done with it, feel accomplished, and move on. And so the games that are behind me actually are games that are here just in a temporary basis before we take them to the pop-up arcade thing that we're doing. I'm very excited. Medieval Madness that's over here is the new run, and that's a game that we just got actually specifically for this hotel pop-up thing that we're doing. And then the other two are just great Stern games. And I would have had Jurassic Park on, but it roars every 15 seconds, and I didn't want it doing that during the during this. But that Jurassic Park is one of my own games, because that's a game that when I was a kid, my grandfather taught me, like, hey, you can always open stuff up. And he's the one that got me into arcade games. And I remember playing that game and just thinking, oh man, one day I want to own these. And that was my favorite game back then. And so it sits over there. And one of the neat things about it is that a few years ago, a guy wanted to like fix some of the code in it because it had some like weird scoring quirks to it.
Yeah.
And I ended up working with him. And so he did all the coding. I just made suggestions. But when I turn it on, it's code that I helped write for it. And so if you go and if any games or if any game is running the new code, you, Chad, who's the guy who programmed it, his initials will come up first. Number 2 high score by default is Dan, and number 3 is MGC. And it's unique. I was at an amusement park in Indiana Beach, and they have a pinball room, and they had a Jurassic Park. And I was like, sweet. And I was looking at it, and as I'm looking at it, I see my name go by and then MGC go by as 2 of the high scores. And I'm just like, oh God, that's so cool. Like something that I helped do to this game that I love is, it's expanded further and further. And so that's just, it's something that I think is really cool.
What are some of your favorite moments or years for the past? Gosh, we're about to hit 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
What's your favorite moments from past cons?
Every year there's like usually one thing that sticks out from it.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's very hard to rate them all. But there is one year that I think wins of all of them. And it's funny because the way that it came together, it was one of the years at the Sheraton.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the giant tents. And so actually first, let me say this and then I'll finish the story.
Right.
So first, my favorite show is always the one that I'm the most excited for, which is honestly always the one that we're building, because I get very excited about the stuff that happens. And how it always works is that once the show actually is happening, I don't get to actually see all the stuff. Mm-hmm. So like once it's happening, like, don't get me wrong, I'm excited to be there and stuff like that, but like I don't get to have the same level of enjoyment because like I'm in the background running around dealing with emergencies or meltdowns or whatever.
Putting out fires.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
I can relate to that.
Exactly. And that's okay. That's what you need to do. And like I accept that role because otherwise other people couldn't do what we do. But I actually I go through videos all the time online of like after the show to see like what it was like. And so I'm always the most excited to talk to people about the upcoming year. All right, back to what I said. So the one year that the most stands out, and it's a funny story. It was, let me think, it would have been 2014.
2014, okay.
2014 sticks out because we had the tent, and it was a year where like everything that could be going wrong was going wrong. And it's going to end up being, there's a crazy face turn at the end of this, to use wrestling speak. So the show is about to open, and I had gotten change, and I didn't get that much change because we didn't have much spare money, but I was like, it's okay. We bank at a bank that is in the same parking lot as this hotel. So if I need money, I will just run to the bank, not a problem. So we are just about to open. We're looking at the line, and I've got the people at ticketing that are like, Dan, we are not going to have enough change. We need you to get change. And I'm like, no problem. I'm on it. And so it's raining out, and I'm like, I'm going to run over to this bank. Now, if you remember the Brookfield Sheraton, there's a mall beside it, right? And
yes.
The bank was in the parking lot of the mall. And it looks like you can visually see it from the door, but it's like at least half a mile away. I swear to God. And so I get out and I start running to this thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to do this. And about halfway there, I'm like, I don't run that much. So I am just exhausted. I'm getting rained on. I'm wet. I finally make it in there. I get the money, and I have to wait, of course. I get the money. I gather it up, and I start trying to come back. And I'm doing the like half jog, half walk thing back. And as I'm getting closer and closer, I'm seeing the line for tickets sticking out of the tent. And I'm like, oh God. And I'm like, well, at least like we're going to have good walk-up sales. I feel bad that these people are in the rain. As soon as I get back, I'll be able to help with tickets. And so I get back and I give the money to ticketing, and I turn and I look, and it's the pre-sale line. People that are buying tickets are walking up, handing them their money in and walking into the show. The pre-sale line was really long, and the pre-sale line was really long because my mother, bless her heart, she's a wonderful woman, she was helping do pre-sale. and she was having a conversation with everybody. Hey, thank you for coming. What are you the most excited to see? And I'm like, oh my God, Mom, there are people standing in the rain. We need to get them inside. And so I'm doing this, and people are like mad because I've been in the rain. And at the same time, my wife is helping run social media. And so I'm getting text messages on my phone that are like, oh my God, everybody online is complaining about like the weather and being stuck outside and how pre-orders that are supposed to be able to get in fast are not getting in fast. And I'm just like, oh my God. And she's like, should I be deleting what people are saying? Should I leave it up? What should I do? And so I'm like, ah. And so I'm figuring all this stuff out. And like, I am completely overwhelmed at this point. And right then, Eugene Jarvis comes in. Dan! And I'm like, hey, Eugene. And I'm very bad with a poker face. And so, like, he's like, oh my God, what's wrong? And I was like, all these little things are going wrong, and I'm not able to stay on top of things, and like people are pissed. And as we walk through the hotel, we were going up a ramp that was going towards the main area because I was walking to him to where he was going to do a speech. And he goes, oh my God. He said, I know exactly what you feel like when I'm doing a game. When the game is being released, I will sit there and I will see where the polygons tear, and I will see where, oh, we could have fixed that little graphical glitch on this game here or whatever, and we'll be doing the release, and that's what I'll be thinking about. And I will not be noticing the people that are there playing the game are having a blast, and they love it because I'm going, God, I could have gotten that one graphic slightly better. And he said, you're missing the forest for the trees. And he throws his hands out and he shouts, this is effing awesome. And at first I was like, oh my God, we're in the middle of a family event, Eugene. And he's like, seriously, as soon as people come in, all of their problems go away. No one's going to care that they were out in the rain for a couple extra minutes. Like, this is why people are here. This is my favorite show that I go to because of the passion, because of how you have everybody that just comes here and does this. This is the best show. And I was like, okay, if Eugene Jarvis says that this is his favorite show, that's pretty cool. Who am I to argue? And so at that point, I was like, all right, well, this is going to be kind of cool. And so I drop him off, and right then I get another text from my wife that says, come up to our room. I need to talk to you right now. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm expecting that I'm going to get up there and we're going to have someone online that's like saying that they need refunds or a bunch of people or something like that. And I get upstairs, and my older son now is playing on the ground with some toys. My wife has been like working on social media, and she's like, oh, good, you're here. And she takes me over to the window, and she opens up the window. So we're looking at the tent from outside. And I'm like, she's going to do exactly what Eugene just did to me. And I'm thinking like, all right, that's interesting. And she whispers into my ear, hey, we're pregnant with our other kid. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, it doesn't matter if everybody else complains or whatever. Like, that's awesome. And so I learned that my second son was being born on the worst Saturday of a Midwest Gaming Classic ever. And that perhaps is my favorite memory of the show, because obviously that's family and that's a cool kid. So that kid, we joke, is the CEO that's going to take over one day, because he went to this last year. If you bought a ticket at the show, there was a good shot that that kid sold you the ticket at the show as a 10-year-old, because he was selling tickets at the show. And people were so confused. I had mentioned in one of my emails, like, say hi to my kid selling tickets if you see him. And so he was like, it was really weird, Dad, because a lot of people came up to me and said, oh, hey, you're Dan's kid. I was like, yeah, yeah, but that's okay, because otherwise they would think, why is there a 10-year-old here selling tickets? And then
it's a family affair. What do you expect?
And then he worked with people from a show in Minnesota called TootyCon, and they helped sell tickets. And Eli was like, oh my God, I love doing this, and thank you guys for helping. I would love to go to TootyCon and sell tickets. And so they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. So this year for TootyCon, him and I went, and on Friday, all day, he's like, Dad, I got to go. I got to sell tickets. And he sat at tickets the whole day. There were times that they left him as the pre-order guy by himself as a 10-year-old, and like he's great. He can repair pinball machines. When I'm like at a place, if there's a pinball machine that's broken, I'll toss him my keys if I'm busy, and he'll go and he'll either fix it or come back and be like, hey, this is what happened, I don't know what to do. And like it's fascinating how into it he is. And so it's neat. And by the way, my older son is also awesome. Just to balance it out, he's not as mechanically inclined, but he is a big pop culture type, and is very helpful in other ways. So, but yeah,
The story you
2014 was
told
that.
about the hardships you were having before the show opened in 2014. And by the
Yeah,
way, the tent had to be erected because there ain't no more room in the hotel. You had to
yeah,
push the vendor hall outside. But I
yeah.
was
Well, and so the other side of that too, that's unknown, is that the city had told us that they were building a convention center that they were going to attach to the Brookfield Sheraton, and they kept saying it's a year away. And like, oh, we're about to break ground on it, and then it'll be up in a year. Oh, we're about to break ground on it, and it'll be up in a year. And so the tent was really supposed to be a single year thing that was supposed to get us a bridge to originally it was supposed to be like a 100,000 square foot convention center that would be added to it. It never came, and when it did, it wasn't as big. So there is a convention center that's just west of the Sheraton now, attached to a different hotel, and the
uh-oh.
size of it is like 30,000 square feet or something.
What I was going to say is 2014, all the fires you were having to put out, I can relate to that because I have to deal with that on a wrestling show day
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
before the doors open, and even after the doors open. I'm like trying to get everybody in. The
Yep.
tickets. Some people need digital. I had to get a Square reader to
Yep.
scan the doggone cards because a lot of people ain't toting much cash around.
Yeah.
I did notice. So this is from last year. This is not my footage. This is somebody's. Whose footage is this? Actually, I should look real quick. It belongs to Romeo Land or something. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's who shot this. Um, there was a little bit of a controversy at another con, Akron. I don't know if it was a Comic Con or a Game Con, but Artist Alley, there was a stink that was raised about some artists using AI produced
Mm-hmm.
material that actually there was artwork, but using AI to modify it. Um, what is your policy on AI usage?
Great question. Our policy on Artist Alley has always been the same, which is that it needs to be human produced. And that has been there forever. Like, it's interesting because that happened, and I had some people reach out to me and be like, hey, we should probably come up with a policy because like we could get some good street cred for coming up with a policy. And we looked at our policy and we were like, we already have one. It's been the same forever, which is that like you can't just take, like if you just take, I don't know, a picture of, here I've got this stupid Buzz Lightyear game by me. If you take this Buzz Lightyear game and you like blew this up and made a poster of it and tried selling that, that's not your art to sell. And so if you're an Artist Alley, you can't do that. It has to be something that you specifically made. And that's what we've always had. And if there's any questions about that, then people come to us. We're also like very particular in the way of like ROM hacks and stuff like that. We are 100% on board with anybody developing their own stuff. But if your goal is like, oh, hey, you know what? This copy of Buzz Lightyear again is too expensive, so I'm going to sell like pirate copies of this. We don't do that because like ultimately we've actually had other companies that come to the show and that have been like, oh, hey, this isn't legal. And like, I'm 100% on board. If you have the rights to that, you should have the rights to that. And so we're very big into that. Now, having said that, one of the things that we can't police in certain ways is like there was a vendor last year that we had a couple people that were like, oh my God, I think that this vendor may have used AI to make their logo. This vendor was not an artist. This vendor was not selling their logo. And at that point, for us, it becomes like I'm
Oh, he froze
not going to
again.
sit there and like try to police Yep, I could tell on my side that time. Sorry, here's what I was saying. I'm not able to sit there and try to police whether someone made this as their logo or not. And like, you know what? There are logos that look like they were made by AI that aren't. And there are logos that are made by AI that sometimes now they don't necessarily look like it. And so like I can't ultimately be the police on it because we don't have enough time to do that. But if they're selling it, if that's their main goal, then that's not something that we're going to in any way support. And so same thing as, like I said, if you come to the show and you're like, oh, hey, here's a brand new cartridge for, I don't know, Mega Man 3 because it's too expensive. So you can buy my Japanese knockoff for $10 instead. We are going to be telling you, hey, you cannot do that. If you're selling fake Funko Pops, we're going to be like, hey, you cannot do that. If you're selling proxy magic cards and they're like not very clearly a proxy
items is what it is.
If it's not very clearly a proxy, if you're trying to counterfeit it, you are, and it's not something where we are like, oh yeah, like we'll give you one warning of like, you've already signed to say that you won't do that. And if we see it again, you get to leave the show. And we've done that literally since probably 2006 was probably when that was implemented.
Although it's now getting harder for to tell the difference between AI and human produced because, you know, there was headline this week that a country song that was created entirely by AI, Walk My Walk by Breaking Rust, was the top selling digital download on Billboard, which getting to number one on that chart is apparently not much of a hill to climb versus getting airplay on the radio, but it happened.
Right. Well, and my thought on that is simply that as the world does more of that, first, I do think that there's a lot of a bubble that's going to pop there because I do, and like I ask this in all sincerity, do you know of anybody who's really going out and looking and being like, hey, you know what would really entertain me is this thing that AI made? Mm-hmm. If people are doing that, like I will tell you that the other day I was on YouTube and I saw Randy Savage interacting with Mr. Rogers. And I watched the show because I was like, that's interesting. And it was clearly an AI thing. And honestly, it really didn't make sense. Mr. Rogers was like, hey, you know what I always say? And then Randy Savage was like, oh, yeah. And it was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I watched it and was like, I will never need to see that again. And I had the same thing served to me today and I didn't click on it. So like,
it's like all these doggone Sora 2 slop videos. They had Bob Ross beating up Mr. Rogers in the ring. It's like Bob Ross does a swanton bomb off the top rope and he spikes his head first.
Right. Well, and like, so the ultimate thing is that like, are people really going to turn around and like, after you've seen a couple of those, you've kind of seen it all. And like, one of the big problems that has is that those videos I've heard cost them about $5 a piece to make. They're not earning $5 a piece on advertising revenue for that. If I would have had to watch an ad before my stupid Mr. Rogers and Macho Man thing, they weren't in a match. They were, Mr. Rogers had Macho Man at his house. If I would have watched an ad before it, I wouldn't have watched it. And like I said, I had the opportunity to watch another one today and I didn't because I even get bothered with videos where if I feel like, oh, the person that's doing the narration isn't a real person, I'm just not interested. We're looking for authenticity. And like, that's one of the things that I always talk with about Moose Gaming Classic itself is that we're an authentic experience where you walk out and you get to interact with other people. And so much of the world today is made to tear each other apart. Like so much of our social media and stuff like that is set up for that. And like the crazy thing is that if you actually boil it down with anybody that you're talking to, we all kind of want the same things. And like, maybe we're thinking about it from different ways, but like, even if you and I have way different opinions on something, it's likely that we're trying to get to the same spot. And if we can have a conversation about it, we can have a respectful conversation about it. But so much of it that we end up doing, it stops becoming that conversation because like, oh, instead of having a conversation, I'm just going to post a meme about how stupid you are for like thinking about this. And then you post a meme that says that I'm stupid for thinking about this. And that's not a conversation. That's not how anything works. And so I talk often, and this is true, when I was a kid, I was super shy. Super shy. And a big part of that was that I was ruthlessly bullied in school. And I, because of that, just didn't like interacting with people because I was like, there's just probably something wrong with me. And like, that's okay, but I don't need to interact with other people. I can just do what I do and I'll enjoy it. But when I would go to an arcade, my grandpa used to give me money to go to the arcade. And I would go to the arcade and I would put my quarter into, usually I would play a game like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I'd put my quarter in the Donatello slot because he's the best. And after that point, if anybody wanted to walk up and start playing, we were instantly a team. Like, I would oh, there's a pizza. You've got less health than me. Make sure you get that. I've got the people on the right-hand side of the screen. You get the people on the left-hand side of the screen. They'd be talking back and forth with me. They might be 10 years older than me. They might be 5 years younger than me. They might be, oh my God, they could be a girl. Oh my God, they could be a different race or ethnicity or religion or whatever. I could have that conversation with them. And then when the game was done, the real magic is that you can walk away from the game. You can be like, hey, man, that was great. Dude, you kicked butt as Michelangelo. I've never seen someone play so well. Oh, yeah. Next time when you're at this guide, jump kick because it'll work better or whatever. Like, you're now having that conversation because you have something that you mutually respect. And what's so cool about our show is that you have that real world component, that the driving force of our show is that social aspect of it. Gabby has for years called our show not a gaming trade show, but a social trade show, where you go in and the gaming gets you into the conversations, and then the conversations get you to do more with the hobby that you enjoy. And so you can leave our show. I've had stories of people that left our show and were like, they had new friends because of it, and they started companies because of it, and those companies grew and they did other things. And all of that happens because whether it's a pinball machine or whatever, you and I walk up to a pinball machine. I've never met you. I've never seen you before in my life. We're playing this Godfather game, and I'm like, dude, what do you think of this? Like, it's kind of weird having Godfather as a pinball machine, but I think I really dig it. And you're like, yeah, so do I. Have you seen the movies? No, or yeah, or whatever. Suddenly we can have a conversation. And like I said, the amount of people that end up having those conversations that spill over into, oh, let's get a coffee together. Like, honestly, that's the type of thing that's going to make the world a better place, instead of what a lot of AI and the internet and everything else is doing, because we do a lot of things with attention where we like to have tension in our attention. And
Yeah.
like, I avoid so much of social media because, like, honest to God, I find so many people that I'm like, I find it harder to talk to you in real life because you're just posting stupid shit all the time. Pardon my words, but it's like,
Yeah.
like, and it doesn't matter
Relate
which
to
side
that.
you're falling on. But if I can't have a conversation with you, I guarantee, and this is true of anybody else in the world, I guarantee that you and I do not see the exact same on every single thing in the world.
Mhm.
And if I can't have a conversation with you, if we find that whatever it is that we disagree on, and my answer to you is like, screw you, you're clearly a loser, and I never want to see you again, and I hope you and all your people die. If that's the solution, we are all in trouble as a species. And so,
Well,
like,
we're in trouble as a species because, a lot of doom scrolling and a lot of people just causing drama and
right. Well, that's what I mean, is that, like, ultimately we need to get by that. And I think that what AI is honestly doing is that the more that you do it, the more that you discover that it's not real, and the less power that it has. I will tell you, I know the exact moment that I was like, AI is the stupidest thing. And it was a couple of weeks ago. The first thing that I ever really did on the internet was I had bought an Atari Jaguar, and I wrote a review, like an unboxing of the Atari Jaguar in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I wrote it, and I posted it online. And like 5 years ago, I found it and was like, oh my God, it's still online. And so I was like, I should have saved that. And so I went looking for it, and I haven't been able to re-find it. But when I looked up Dan Lucen Atari Jaguar review, like 1995 and 1994 and stuff like that, I was getting responses that was like, Dan Lucen, who is one of the founders of the Midwest Gaming Classic, is also a huge fan of Jaguar cars and has a large collection of them that he sometimes will talk about. And I'm like, I have never owned a Jaguar car. I am not really a car guy. I like DeLoreans. I don't own one, also not a Jaguar. I own a Tesla, not a Jaguar. Like, what is this talking about? This is so wrong. And somehow it came up with this. It literally just made it up. And it was like, why am I going to believe anything that this is saying? And like, I absolutely hate it when that stuff comes up, because it's like you need to have like a real human check and see if it's real, because so much of the time when it's doing that stuff, what it's doing is that it's going, oh, this is probably what they're looking for, and it makes it up like 10% of the time.
Yeah.
We can't go off of something that makes something up 10% of the time. Otherwise, we're all living in different worlds of facts that may or may not be right. And that's not, there is value to AI. That is not it. And most of the stuff that we're trying to do and that we're trying to say that it's going to become is not where it's going to be. And I do think, just like the internet had this big bubble that popped and then it came back in a different way, that we're going to have something like that happen, where we are going to have a massive AI bubble pop, because I don't know how anybody thinks that it's worth paying for any of this garbage right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to pop, and then the actual business cases for it are going to come back up. But right now, a lot of it is just goofy. And so anyway, that's my AI rant mixed up with
I gotta show this.
Of the show.
This was generated by, I guess, one of those mini firms, law firms, that posted ads all over Facebook. They were looking for clients to sue video game companies for gaming addiction. Well, one of those places posted these little graphics, and it's like, this is misspelled. This looks stupid. This, you're looking for clients. You're a law firm, and you post these graphics, and there's spelling errors.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's interesting because like as you look at these at first, like in Grand Theft Auto Childhood, the one to the right of it, I'm like, oh yeah, it says online. It doesn't. It says GNLELE.
Something.
I don't even know.
And
like,
and down here too.
Yeah, and
behavior's
like
misspelled.
that's the problem,
Social's
is like
misspelled.
Right, and like ultimately, the other side of it is that with something like that, the only way that art is made is from it looking at people who made all the other art and doing it based on those people's art. It's not actually creating anything itself. It's just using what it already has to create something new. And like, don't get me wrong, there's uses for doing that. And like, you can argue that a lot of, for instance, rap music that sampled the songs from other music is doing something similar. It's doing it with a human picking out what are those parts, but it's not the same type of thing. And there's rights issues, and there's all these other things that go with it. And right now, I feel like a huge part of our issue is that right now as a country, we're all just like, oh yes, let's barrel towards this and try to figure out what happens, and like, it'll be great, and we'll just figure it out eventually. And like I said, the problem is that what we really need to be worried about is the interaction between humans. I'll tell you a secret that I don't want my older son hearing. My older son's school this year banned cell phones, and like, it really stresses him out. And guess what? He has more friends. He talks with people. He last year he would talk about how, like, we are very big on, like, when you're at dinner, you interact with people at dinner. You do not sit on your cell phone. And he's talked about how he's gone out to lunch with like some of his friends and their parents, and like his friends' parents will talk to him and be like, why aren't you on your phone? Because all of his friends are like, and he's like, because we're eating, it's weird. And like this, like last year he said, yeah, like we'd eat and everybody else would be on their phone, and like this year we talk. And like, hey, guess what? Like, on one hand, obviously I think that games are super powerful, and like the culture around it, the connectivity around it, which can be done in lots of different ways. My younger son, one of the ways that he sees a lot of his friends, because his school is a little bit further away, is through playing online. And so they'll start a Zoom and they'll meet online and they'll play online. And like, it's not the only way that he meets up with them, but it's one of the ways that he does it. There is value there. But the real thing, the real world, and figuring out how to interact in the real world is super important, because otherwise we end up all being lonely and wishing that we could figure out how to interact with other people. And like, at the end of the day is, it's hard to know how to go out into the world and like interact with people. You know what I mean? Like if you just walked into a place by yourself, like let's say that you go to a concert by yourself. A concert, something's going on, and like you can just kind of stand there. It's awkward because you're like, I don't know what to do. Can I talk to this person? I don't know. And like, how can you get above that if you have that connectivity? I went to a concert. There's a absolutely ridiculous band. They're like a boy band that plays metal music. They're called Electric Callboy. And their concerts are just so happy that everybody talks. And so like, you could go to one of those and everything would be fine because you just interact with the people that are beside you. But so much of what we do is not made in that way where there's an easy entry point. And games, again, I feel like there's something that gives us that super easy entry point, because anybody can walk up and press start on a pinball machine and instantly more or less know the rules. I do not
Although
want the
I
ball
will say,
to go.
I had to use this to basically keep track of the schedule, because I was trying to, certain things were happening at certain times and I wanted to be there to do this. Certainly the retro game tournaments for certain.
Yep.
And
and don't get me wrong, phones, great tool, outstanding tool. It's just when we replace human interaction and say fully phone. Before I had a phone, I had a to-do list and a calendar and all that stuff, and I carried them around with me everywhere, and they kept me knowing what I was doing. And like, I use theme parks often in my examples, but like when you go to a theme park, you'd get a paper map and you get a paper schedule of the events and stuff like that, and you'd use those to figure out where you're going. You had a watch on. Well, now your phone kind of does all of that. There's an app for Six Flags or whatever. You go on there, you find your shows, you find your whatever, you're going to go to those places. It does those really important things, and it does them better, quite frankly, than the paper ones did, even though I'm nostalgic for paper maps at theme parks.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I love going to theme parks because you're stuck in line with someone. And if you're not just staring at your phone the whole time, it means that you get to talk with someone and actually talk with someone for a while.
Right.
And then just like Midwest Gaming Classic, you go on a ride, the ride is done. You've just had a shared experience for a minute and a half. Oh my God, can you believe how fast we just went or whatever just happened? And you have that now you have something to talk about. And so I really enjoy
trying to recover from losing your lunch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've done that myself. But yeah, I feel like that's just so important. And I feel like, unfortunately, like I said, the world has been made to make us believe that that's not what's important. And like I said, I see on a regular basis people that I talk with and really respect in real life that will go post really stupid stuff online. And I'm just like, guys, like, you posting that meme changes no one's mind. All that you did is make a bunch of people that you probably could have talked with and had a real conversation about your feelings on this dismiss you and never talk with you again. And the people that already shared that same opinion were just like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. And so anyway, that drives me nuts, and I'm not the one to change it, but I wish that we could have conversations.
Yeah, and I've griped at people who are blowing up my phone, posting their political crap, which I did not solicit.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, look,
drive me up the wall.
Like, there are things politically that affect people, and I'm not saying that there's not, but every one of them is more nuanced than a meme.
Yeah.
And like I could have a very long conversation right now about the weird stuff that has happened to me because of tariffs. A lot of what we do with so we rent out arcade games. Like I said, we also run games in town. We have games at 3rd Street Market Hall. We have Crane games. We have stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of those games highly impacted by tariffs. And because of who I am, like, I can't go to the government and ask for an exemption because they're like, oh yeah, you get, well, yeah, I don't know, $50,000 worth of stuff a year. I've had people say to me, well, you should just start a factory. I'm like, I made 20,000 like ducks for 20 cents a piece. That's not enough to start a factory. I'm sorry.
No.
Like, and who's going to buy those ducks? That's like a much deeper conversation because, like, on the flip side, there are reasons that some of that may or may not work. And we can have, like, in the real world, a conversation that's like, well, here's where this is really hard for a small business that relies on that and why I can't just turn around and like do X, Y, and Z. And then you could have, well, here's the reasons that we should actually have them. And like, you could have a nuanced conversation and come to an understanding where, hey, these are not perfect, but maybe they're not as bad. And like, that's probably where the truth is. The truth isn't 100% terrible or 100% perfect ever on anything. But you can't have that when you're just yelling at clouds about, you know, whatever it is and just trying to get the more like street cred by posting the most stupid thing online.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where the whole like theory of the show comes from.
So we're over 2 hours into this. I'm certainly not going for 3 hours because I already did a podcast.
I told you.
Yeah, I did a podcast yesterday unexpectedly.
When I told
due
you
to my own blunder. Oh, go ahead.
I just said, I told you that I know that you said earlier that like, hey, I don't know how much we'll be able to do because I won't have much time to prepare. And I said, don't worry, I'm certain that I can talk about a lot of this stuff.
I pretty much decided I was going to wing it. It was just a question of what other stuff could I just pull up, and I pulled up a few of the videos.
Yeah, those videos were great. Well,
yes.
And like I said, I think that at least for this, one of the things that's really nice is that I'm obviously passionate about some of this stuff. I do not get enough money or anything like that to run this show. I've told people for ages, if I wanted to make money, I could have worked at McDonald's for minimum wage and made more money than running the show for the entire day, all the time that I've done it. But I do it because I'm actually passionate that I think that it actually improves the world and it gives people this unique outlet and stuff like that. And so if nothing else, I got to talk about that. And thank you for that.
I do have a few questions.
Yeah, let's do those. And then I've got something that I want to say. And I saw that, and actually real quick, I saw that
this guy,
Cynical Enigma had posted that he'll be sending, yes, that one. And I swear to God, I will respond to it within a week because like I said, I'm doing my best to get on top of emails. I was at 400 emails earlier today. I'm at 250 now, so it's getting better. Yeah,
that's like,
and they're all ones that I need to respond to.
Tickets.
Yeah,
general questions, and these are kind of a little bit rapid fire.
All right, and I will do short answers, I swear.
What is the highest attendance year that you've had throughout the
2025? 36,000.
36,000.
Every single year, other than the COVID years, we have increased attendance by roughly 20 to 25%.
So the year that 2024, where I saw the line go around the building, what was the attendance that year?
28,000. The difference was two big differences. And again, we're doing this quickly, so I'll tell you the really quick thing was we didn't have as many ticketing stations set up for people because so two weird things happened. One was that last year we had far more. We got really worried because ticket sales generally go like this, and then at the end they like go off the charts, right? And so last year we were maintaining like 25% ahead until the final 2 days. The final 2 days sell like 20% of the tickets for the show. And we beat last year's final 2 days by like over 100%. Like that's absurd. We've never had something like that, to the point that there was internal conversations about like, oh my God, what happens if walk up is like literally double of last year? What will we do? And so there was a lot of concern about that. Walk up was exactly the same as last year. So everybody that we normally gained in walk up just bought tickets in those final 2 days. And so we had severely increased what we were doing because we knew how many they were for pre-orders, to the point that we knew that we could get those numbers in. And then the people that we had walking in for regular tickets, we had increased those to meet what demand was that we expected. And we actually had lesser than what we expected there. And so the combination of the two, we were able to we're really good now at getting in pre-sales. you literally have two execs at Six Flags that were on efficiency that look at this together, me and one other guy. And so we're good at that. And then, like I said, the other side of it was just kind of a luck of the interesting draw. And we think that that's going to go forward. We're actually hoping to, this is not an official announcement, but we're hoping to sell tickets an entire day later, so that we'll sell them all the way up until Saturday morning online. They'll probably become more expensive on like Thursday night or something like that. And if we can do that, then we expect that the lines in person will be even shorter, because we can just continue to increase how many people are going through.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to buy all my tickets. I'm buying my stuff like, geez, right at the end of the calendar year, but it seems like I may have to do it an entire month sooner, the way things are going.
So I will tell you, and this is for everybody, VIG will sell out. Last year, VIG sold out roughly, I think, 3 weeks before. We have slightly increased VIG this year. I still expect that it will sell out probably the same-ish time frame. Friday night sold out last year, and the after party then sold out last year. Saturday and Sunday, we do not limit their tickets for. We also do workshops now on Fridays, and those are limited, although it depends on the workshop. Some of them sell out in like a day or two, and others don't sell out. So it just depends on what it is.
Next question. So, how do you fight the blues, the post-convention blues? Because a year ago or 2 years ago, I came out, I think it was year 20 or the 20th show I attended in a row. I came out of the convention feeling the blues because I seemed like I didn't get to do everything I wanted, or I missed some stuff, and I was like, well, crap. The show is over, and it's like I didn't quite do it all. And then I was like looking for another con to go to, and I ended up going to the Como retro convention down in Columbia, Missouri, like a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
On the spur of the moment, because like I didn't get fulfilled, and that's what I mean. 48 hours goes by fast.
Yeah.
Oh, it went by fast. But then again, so how do you fight it?
The two things that I would say with that is that the first is, if depending on what you want to do, going with a plan, because we do absolutely have more than you can do in a day, or going with no plan whatsoever, and then don't overlook and overplan at all. It's either one or the other. You either go in with the plan of like, yes, these are the exact things that I want to do, or you go in and you're like, I'll do whatever comes up and I'll just see what it is. Both ways are good ways to attack the show. I think that the problem is that if you try looking through everything and going like, oh, I'm going to do everything, it is impossible. Like literally, we now have, I think it's 4 or 5 stages running at all times. It is impossible to reach all of the content that we have, and we don't record all of it because long story, but we don't. And so instead, you kind of go through one of the two different ways. I think that having VIG is important for that too, of being able to do everything that you want. And then the last part about it, and this is honestly what I do, because like it's funny. There's like a weird letdown for me after the show, because like first I just got to see everybody that I'm friends with. I got to like, there was one year that I walked into the show floor and I was standing and looking and being like, oh my God, this is really cool. I'm really glad that someone set this up. And then I was like, whoa, I'm kind of the person that set this up. That's kind of cool. And like I think that a big part of it is like, I went and I watched videos and stuff like that, and I didn't think of it as the like, what did I miss? Even though, like I said, I don't get to do almost anything. There's a joke that I play 1 game a year, which is actually roughly true. I played 3 balls of pinball this year, 1 ball on 3 different games, and that was the extent of all of my game playing for the entire show. And so I will go and I'll watch a video like this, and I will be like, oh, okay, look at this. This is what people really liked about X, Y, and Z. Oh, look at this.
This is when the power goes off Sunday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. So actually, just a real quick callback. You had asked me about my favorite times. The other thing that is my absolute favorite time is at 5 p.m. And like when I say this, if you don't hear the second part, you're like, wow, what a weirdo, is when the power goes out. And it's not because the show is over. Although I will say that there is some relief for me because the show's over. But the
Yeah.
other side of it is that, and I had never been in the arcade hall in the game center until 2 years ago when the power went out. I used to actually throw it myself, but since we've been at the convention center, I haven't been there. When the power goes out, there's like a, oh, and then everybody applauds for like a minute.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
even saying that gets me kind of teared up because it's like it's the power again of like people aren't sad that it's over, they're happy that it existed. And I don't exactly know how I got to be so lucky as to be the person that's, I don't know, somehow in charge of all of this stuff, but it's an honor to do it and that people feel that about it. Like I said, it's why I feel that the show can be so important and that I am so passionate about it because of how people give that back. And like I was wearing this shirt. I was at a Boy Scout outing with my younger son the other day, and he was sleeping on a submarine of all things, and we were in there, and there's another dad that was there, and he looked at me and he goes, "Oh man, that's a really nice Midwest Gaming Classic shirt. I love that show. When did you go?" And I was like, "Oh, and I never know what to say because I run it. It doesn't sound right because like I said, everybody brings in their own stuff. So I was like,
Right.
I people I'm the one that writes the emails and I'm kind of like one of the main organizers. And he goes, "Oh my God, really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Thank you. That show means more than you know." And I was like, "No, I'm like pretty aware of what it means to people." And he was like, "No, like I can't tell you how much that show means to people. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being that person." And like honestly, I'm just a guy that was thrown into this because like I told you, I tried shutting it down. I tried getting rid of it, and I'm keenly aware of that. There's no ego here of like, "Oh, this show is awesome because of me." If it was my way, the show wouldn't exist. The show exists because everybody else is awesome. And I just have the ability to organize everybody else into a relatively coherent blob that becomes something bigger than us all.
Um, Future goals. Oh, I should ask this beforehand. Is there something that MGC had in previous years that you haven't had in a while but want to have back?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I mean, this year's our 25th anniversary, and so I think that my answer for that would be that, like, I don't know, this is going to sound weird, but like, just I'd like to have anybody that wants to come back that hasn't been at the show for a number of years, whether it's from a guest perspective or if it's a room. Like, what comes to my mind right away is the family game room, which could
Yeah.
never come back in the way that it was because family game room was a thing that, like I said, his name was Tom. Tom made it with his kids
Hmm.
and they literally would play games together. And so, like, that was their weekly thing that one night a week they would pull out a game system and play games together. Well, his kids have kids of their own now. So, like, they cannot do the family game room in any, like, it made sense only at that moment in time. But in my head, like, oh God, I'd love to have that come back. Well, that's not coming back like it was. But like having that come back, those people come back and stuff like that. And just like in some ways it's funny because I don't consider myself a hugely nostalgic type person, even though obviously there's a lot of that is with the show, but I'm always looking at what's the new things that we're doing with the old things. And so it would just be to see as many of those people coming back.
Future goals.
Just
If,
any.
yeah, future goals. Whether it's Midwest Gaming, you as a gamer, or anything else. I didn't even ask you about you as a gamer yet, but you know,
Okay, well, and
just
we can hit these quick too. So for the show, we want to keep it going and keep doing what essentially its mission has become, which is taking anybody's passions that wants to and allowing them to use their passions and share their passions with as many people as possible. And so whatever that looks like, we would love to be able to continue to do that. Um, and like quite frankly, I think that likely means that the show is going to continue to grow. Like I said, it's grown at a 25% clip for like if you take out the COVID impacted years of 2021, 2022, and 2023 was the exact same size show as 2022 was the exact same size show as 2019 was. If you take out those 2 years, the show has since like 2011 had a 25% growth rate to it, which is just insane. And so who knows how big this could go. And like we want to maintain that like independent weirdness that we've got, but continue to let that grow. Personally, I've got some weird stuff that I'm hoping to do. There's a really unique project that we're hoping to do this year. I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but it's the closest that we've ever been. And I will simply say that I, for ages, have been wanting to get some really unique characters to the show that would, I think, mean a lot to people if I can pull it off. And
cosplayers or actors playing particular characters?
Maybe robots playing particular characters.
Oh, okay.
And so we'll see. Like that's been something that's been. I used to work for Chuck E. Cheese also, and it's not Chuck E. Cheese, but we'll see if we can pull
Five
anything off
Nights
there.
at Freddy's. Oh boy,
So,
I don't
like
know
that.
if I want killer animatronics running around.
I mean, I wouldn't let them kill people, but I did used to work with those. And then like beyond that, like I said, it's I guess as a company, one of the things that's really tough with us is that the show goes and like, don't get me wrong, we make money at the show, but it's not like how it works is that you get all your money basically at one time. And so this weird like thing happens where we get like, it's like if I hand you a pile of cash and woohoo, and you take your pile of cash, and then for the next like 9 months, you have an unknown amount of cash that you have to give out for 9 months. And like a lot of the times it's like, oh yeah, I forgot to pay that hotel and it's $35,000 and oh, a big part of my cash. And like you keep doing that. And one of the biggest things that's been tough is that, so like we have JJ Games, we put games out on location, we rent games out, we do that type of stuff. We really want to get it so that the company is at break even for the rest of the year, because then it makes the Midwest Gaming Classic less dangerous. Right now, where, like I said, in 2018 and 19, we had those Sundays and it nearly killed the show. 2019 wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Hilton basically coming back to me and giving us so many additional benefits to being there. They gave us free rooms. They did this because they knew that we were going to be out of business if we couldn't pull this off. And so, like, if we can get it where the rest of the year stuff's going on, and like I mentioned, we're going to be doing this pop-up arcade at this hotel, and like, if that works, and we've got other things, then we can finally, then I can finally take a breath, and then I think that we can make everything work just easier, because I won't have to be like Schmiegel with my pile of money all the time, being like, my precious, I can't give any more out, and it will allow us to have a little bit more freedom to be like, hey, here's a really unique project that we'd like to do. Yeah, we can take this risk because we don't have to like have. We just had a workman's really boring behind the scenes stuff. We just had a workman's comp issue come out where we didn't pay for something because they had screwed something up for like literally there was a gap for 2 days. It's a $750 fine, and so like, oops. And so like I get it. I screwed up. I need to pay that. I'm going to pay that. But like that's the type of thing where like it would be really nice if I didn't have to feel like, okay, well that's $750 from the previous show, because right now all the money that's going in is going to the bills that I would like to feel comfortable with. So I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. We could ease another couple hours. But
well, I tell you what, like I said, I guarantee you, if you'd like, let's say, I mean, heck, even if you want to do this again in like 2 months, I would do this again in like 2 months.
Oh, well, you have time because,
I will make time. So here's the thing, and I swear I will not take 10 minutes to get to 3 minutes or to 3 hours on this quick thing.
Right.
But here's the thing. A lot of what I do, I just talked about a workman's comp issue. That is an honest to God thing that is going on in my life. That is not fun. I do not like that.
No, it isn't.
There is a lot of what I do that is not the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just talked passionately for God knows how long about how the most fun part of the show is interacting with other people and
Right.
chatting with other people. We just had 2 hours and 50 minutes and 43 seconds of the thing that I enjoy about the show.
Yep.
And so this is why I do this. And we will finish here. We will hang up or I guess finish the stream. And I will be more energized tomorrow for doing this and for having someone else who is also passionate about the show that asked me questions and took the time and cared to talk to me. And so like ultimately, like it's something that I'm always aware of is that it's very hard for me, especially like I said, my house problems is the biggest thing, which is it better be ending. Once those are better, like there's a little bit of a soup for the soul with this. Just one last thing I said with EverCon, the year that I went to EverCon and how important that was. I had developed this really toxic relationship with the show because, like I said, when COVID hit, we didn't have any money and we had to take out these loans. And it was like, if the show doesn't work, I can't, like, we don't have enough assets to sell to pay back the loan.
Right.
So, like, this has to work. And so EverCon invited us out and basically said to me, hey, like, we will give you a booth and we'll help you with some other ways and stuff like that. And my response, honestly, was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I hate shows right now because, like, I'm not happy about running Midwest Gaming Classic because I'm doing this 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't have a break. I'm not enjoying any aspect of it. And I have to say yes to EverCon because if I can go out there and if we can sell $500 worth of games, that might be enough to let us go for another month or two. And so I have to say yes. And so I went out to it. And part of the reason that Danky King happened, if I'm going to be completely honest, was because I was so frustrated with everything, and laughing about Danky King was the thing that made me go, okay, like I can have fun doing it. Yep, exactly. And then throughout that show at EverCon, I had people that came up to me and they were just having fun. Oh my God, look at this, look at this, look at this. Like, oh, let's go. I got to go out and eat with someone, with a group there. And like, that sounds like a small thing. I don't get to do that at Midwest Gaming Classic, but I got to do that. And like, it was like, oh yeah, this is fun. And it put me in the feet of the people that were there. And I got to go, oh yeah, this is why I do this. It's because I got this really positive feeling from it. And if I hadn't gone to EverCon, I don't know that MGC 2022 would have been worth going to, because it was so hard for me to care, and EverCon got me to care again. And so thank you for keeping on me and being like, dude, come on, you said you'd do this, because like I said, this is why I do this. And so I need to take time out of doing finances and paying sales taxes and doing workman's comp issues and getting insurance set up for my move and renting a truck, all things that I'm doing right now. I have to remember, like, there's a bigger goal here. And so thanks for spending a couple hours reminding me of that.
All right, Dan. So go ahead and wrap this up for tonight. And thank you for coming in. I mean, and, you know, it's probably a good thing that I did a pod last night, because like I did a bunch of topics, but I didn't expect I was going to do a pod tonight. But
yeah,
we got it together. Filled a void that I've been trying to fill for quite a while. I mean, I'm going to do a round table for game cons somewhere, because I've been to a few others, and a few have reached out to me and they want to talk. So
cool.
But yeah, Midwest Gaming Classic is I always recommend that to others to go to. And certain people, I've told them, you got to go again. It's like, they never pulled the trigger and go. And I was like, you got to be, what is wrong with you? And they're like,
it's
bizarre.
It's hard because, I mean, look, the first time that you go to something, it feels a little bit awkward and like, will I be accepted here and stuff like this? And what I know is that there are people that, because of the industry that they work in, they are required to go to many, many shows.
Yeah.
So like, whether they're selling or whatever. And a lot of those people once they leave the industry, do not go back to the shows. But most of them go back to our show. And I find that to be really interesting. We have one person that works with us who does 40 to 45 shows a year. Their main job is doing shows. And they say about our show, your show is the Disneyland of shows because everybody there is just so laid back and nice. And like a lot of the times when you see the quote unquote con type shows, what you see is this like, oh, it's going to be hard. Like you're going to walk in and like, if you don't know the lingo, you're not going to be able to talk to anybody and who's going to talk to you. And at our show, you walk in and if you're like, I don't know who to talk to, literally you'll have people come up to you and be like, let me show you what's over here. And like, it's uniquely friendly like that. And so,
Question I forgot to ask.
Yep.
The last few years, part of the reason why I've not bought anything at the Midwest Gaming Classic, except for the VIG and whatever comes with it, I've gone through the vendor hall the last few years, and I just like I'm overwhelmed, which is another reason why I go to the smaller game cons. Is like I'm a little more apt to spend money at the smaller cons because there's less to go through. And it's
I don't
all
disagree.
this at the vendor hall is like gotten so big now. It's like I can't.
What I will say for that is that my strategy is always I'm going to pick one or two things that I'm going to look for. And if I don't run into those one or two things, I'm not just going to go everywhere because if I do, I'm going to spend $3 million that I don't have. And so like I have played Magic for years and years and years, and I can buy a Magic card here and there of the older cards that like they don't necessarily cost a ton, but they're a nice throwback for me and they're not huge to store. And so like the last couple of years, I've bought a couple Magic cards for like 30 or 40 bucks from some of the older sets. And then I always look for, I have a thing for wacky failed handheld systems. I don't know why. And so I always look and see if there's something unique like that. So
He took the title belt all the way to Malaysia.
heck yeah.
Jeez, that's quite the distance. He also kind of pointed out that he was like, it's like promotions were being a little slow to book him lately, and I don't know why. I think it has to do Iowa's just kind of being stingy to him, but I'd like to see him come down to Central Illinois, but we got a bit of a crew, so I was like, I don't know. But although Federation Sprawl seems to be a bigger problem of late, which now it's like wrestling at the game cons, and now arcade owners are hosting wrestling shows in their arcade now.
Right.
Which is insanity. But anyway, Dan Lucen, I want to thank you for coming in tonight, last minute, and
sorry about the last minute thing again.
Well,
and we'll do this again earlier.
Maybe I'll see you in an arcade soon or something.
Yeah. If nothing else, like I said, we'll be announcing that pop-up one, and I'll be there every day for an hour, basically a day at least, maintaining the game. So should be unique. We're going to have some really unique stuff there, hopefully.
Okay, MidwestGamingClassic.com is the website to go to, and I believe you buy your tickets and VIG packages and whatever exclusive games that are coming out. Gosh, what did I get last year? I got Moto X for the Super NES, which was an exclusive because I got that $10 coupon that I kept forgetting I had. And then I ended up using it last year. But geez,
we're working on something really unique that'll be a throwback to our first year.
And I gotta make sure to use this thing. I'm gonna be bringing this and use last year's ticket again.
We'll hook you up. I know that we've got some of the pins that are left over. So yeah, and that came down to someone forgot to put them in, and so like I want to say the first 100 of them did not have pins on them, and so I ended up. If you remember, I think I emailed everybody on Friday night and was like, "Stop by and get your pin because we forgot some of them." Sorry. So
probably missed
that happens.
Probably forgot the email or missed it or something. I don't know. All right, well.
We'll hook you up. We made 3 hours. We win.
All right. Dan, thank you for doing my podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for making my show happen for the last 20 years.
21 or 22, I'm not sure, but
yeah. Well,
at
people
least
like 20. You aren't coming. There's no reason to do it.
And the streak is going to keep going. I'm going to get to 30.
Guaranteed. I love it. I am too. That's my goal. My goal is to get to at least 40.
All right.
So,
Well, Pinball
and quite
Expo
frankly,
crossed 40,
as it
so
gets closer to there, yeah, as it gets closer to 40, my goal is to beat Pinball Expo. I'll catch up to them 1 year.
I don't think Pinball Expo is ever going to end.
For anybody that doesn't get that, they're like 15 years older than us, and like
Yeah.
that would have to have them end, and I don't think that they're going to end either. So I hope not.
All right.
There's another story here about how Pinball Expo is the reason that we exist, and I'll tell that one next time. That's your teaser for 2 months from now ish.
All right, Dan. Thank you, and have a good night.
You too. Bye.
All right. All right, Dan Lucen was the guest on the podcast, and buy your tickets now at the Midwest Gaming Classic.com. I will be rating a channel, and who am I going to have next week? Well, I don't know if I'm doing a pod next week because, what's next week? It is Thanksgiving. So, yeah, next Thursday is Thanksgiving, and I'm probably going to be, I don't know, eating turkey or trying to digest my dinner. I don't know what I'm doing on Thanksgiving next weekend, but I'm going for a family dinner on Saturday. So we'll see what happens, but I am going to rate a channel. So I want to thank you all for watching the Crimeycade this week, and I hope to see you around the arcade soon. Who am I going to rate? I don't know. We'll see in a second, but oh, I got to throw my doggone closing credits up there. Have a good night, everybody. I am going to raid Crimeycade. I'll see you later. Let them know what you saw, what we were doing, and have a good night. And let us know. Crimeycade gonna get the raid tonight. 3, 2, 1. Have happy Thanksgiving.